special immigrant visa holders, U.S. Embassy staff, and Afghans at risk.
General McKenzie also said the US had no plans at present to bring more troops to the country to help with the evacuation effort.
Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has chaired an emergency COBRA meeting to discuss the increasingly dangerous situation in Afghanistan. The UK's Ministry of Defence has confirmed there have so far been no British casualties. Countries such as Germany and Belgium have ended their evacuation operations out of Kabul. But despite the explosions, Mr. Johnson says the UK's evacuation efforts will go on as the August 31st deadline approaches.
I want to stress that we're going to continue with that operation, and we're now coming towards the end of it, to the very end of it, in any event.
In other news, India has reported a spike in COVID-19 infections just days after officials warned of an upcoming massive third wave. The country reported more than 46,000 cases on Thursday, about 22% higher than the previous day. Hospitalizations for COVID-19 in the U.S. have hit 100,000 for the first time since January. A new spike in cases is being driven by the Delta variant of the virus. Our U.S. correspondent Sarah Walton reports.
The number of people being treated in hospital for COVID-19 across the United States is now at its highest level since January the 30th, when coronavirus vaccines weren't widely available. Florida has the most, with more than 17,000 hospitalizations. That's followed by Texas, with more than 14,000. There are also more than 2,000 children being treated in hospital for the virus for the first time since August 2020. However, the daily average number of deaths being reported across the country is around 1,100.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the enormously difficult calculations that US allies must make in light of President Biden's decision to withdraw American troops from Kabul airport next Tuesday. His international partners have to decide whether there is any prospect of them being able to keep their own troops in Afghanistan, absent the vital air cover and military protection that the US has traditionally provided. Colonel Richard Kemp is the former commander of British forces in Afghanistan. He is evidently frustrated by the decision today's commanders have to make.
If we don't have the ability to hold on to an airport, a relatively small airport, then I'm not quite sure what all our defence spending is for. But on the other hand, there are other things to balance as well as just forces and political will, one of which is the potentially immense risks to those people we're trying to get out. And if we manage, due to remaining there after the deadline, and have clashes with the Taliban, and the Taliban start killing the people we're trying to get out, then of course that is the opposite to what we're trying to achieve.
As things stand, Britain and France are now beginning to wind up their evacuation efforts at Kabul airport. Both countries still urging President Biden to extend the US operation there. But the British Defence Secretary is now telling British citizens who get left behind to try and make their own way to one of Afghanistan's international borders. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the top news again. There are reports of fresh explosions in Kabul following twin suicide bombings earlier in the day. Afghan officials say at least 50 civilians have been killed, and the U.S. has confirmed the deaths of at least 12 U.S. service members. And the U.S. says it will continue evacuation flights out of Afghanistan, with some 5,000 evacuees currently lined up at the Kabul airport. And that's the latest from Feature Story News. Rebecca Foster reporting.
I got my first Barbie when I was 37 years old. And even when I was younger, I knew I didn't need to look like her to feel good about myself. And just because Barbie has a size 0 waist and wears dark makeup, does that mean that's the only way to be beautiful? I mean, what kind of message does that send to men like me? I always remember that this is just a silly toy. And it shouldn't change the way I look at myself. And if anyone has a problem with me being myself, well, then they're probably not really my friends. I also don't just play with Barbies. I play with Legos and Mega Bloks, because while I definitely like Barbies, I like building things too, and I'm actually really, really good at it. My name is Tim Mortensen. I'm 43 years old, and I know that I don't need to be defined by Barbie. I can be whoever I want to be.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Welcome to Free Talk Live. Phones are open as always if you want to join us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio with you tonight, you've got me, Ian.
And Bonnie.
And, you kind of knew it was coming, but it's still an ugly thing when you find out about it, and that is concentration camps. Although they're not calling them concentration camps, of course. There's, going to be new terminology for it. And it is just quite ironic, quite interesting that Queensland, Australia, has decided to build their concentration camp, or what they're calling a quarantine facility.
In a place called Well Camp?
Yes.
Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, the actual name of the place, the city or town or whatever this thing is called, whatever they call them in Australia, actually happens to be named Well Camp.
It's just a get well soon camp.
And by the way, Matt joining us here as well.
How you doing?
Yeah. Did you hear about this at all?
No, but that's creepy and Orwellian. Like, are they trying to be as Orwellian as they can get? Has nobody in Australia read George Orwell?
I don't know. I mean, if they have, they are acting it out.
A bunch of them are protesting, and what they're going to do right now is like all the truck drivers and businesses are going to close, and like people aren't going to go to work, like
Really?
that are protesting.
Well, they're already locked down in some states of Australia, so you can't even go to work.
Yeah, but like the point is, the people who are the essential workers or whatever are going to protest
they're not
by
going to work.
Yeah.
Now, is that happening across the country, or is it just specific areas?
It just says Australia in the things that I've seen, and it's usually just like a meme passing around, like with people sharing it, like, look what Australia is going to do.
Former host of Free Talk Live, Sam Dodson, shared something yesterday actually, on Twitter. His name there is, by the way, To The Lifeboats, if you want to find him. He's actually doing really great. He's got like 10,000 followers.
Really?
He's got a huge following. Anyway, he shared a video that was ostensibly taken in France of people protesting by having a picnic. Now, if you don't think having a picnic is a protest, let me explain to you why it is. First of all, they're not on a lockdown, right? Like you could go out and have a picnic. So it's not that kind of like civil disobedience in that way. They're not breaking a lockdown per se. But what they are breaking is the wallets of these restaurateurs who are being the state's enforcers. So what's happening is...
I was going to say, they're doing it right outside the restaurants.
Correct. So people are actually having picnics on the street out in front of the restaurants that are enforcing the government's vaccine passports. So the restaurants are nearly empty. Because
as a long time restaurant professional, I am kind of sad. Restaurants are places that are basically comprised of outlaws and cowboys and cowgirls and party animals, and we don't necessarily do what we're told. That's how we ended up in restaurant, a lot of us in the first place. It's kind of it's a rebellious atmosphere. Even the really high end, maybe in some cases, especially the high end restaurants, they're full of people who are very self-motivated and very much thinking and hardworking and hard partying and outgoing people. I cannot believe that they're cowing like that, especially in France. That's very sad. The home of all things restaurant.
I mean, there's a difference between the staff at a restaurant and the owner of the restaurant. I mean, maybe the owner came from that background. A lot of owners don't have a restaurant background, right? Like they just wanted to have a restaurant.
That's true.
They get into a restaurant. Of course, a lot of those don't succeed.
Right.
But on the other hand, they're the ones with the investment, and they're the ones who don't want to lose their investment, and they feel
those cooks
like
shouldn't show up to work. The cooks and wait staff should just stay home.
Yeah.
Don't go. It's going to cost you. It's going to hurt.
Yep.
It's going to suck, but you've been there before. You've hurt before. Do it some more this time on your own terms.
So, Bonnie, you mentioned this protest in Australia. The truckers and other essential workers are going to strike, essentially.
Yeah, I can look up something about it on the break. I don't have my phone or anything.
Yeah, did that have something to do specifically with the camp that they're talking about building, or is it just generally they're just striking because they're
just
upset
generally
about the restrictions?
since they're so restricted right now.
There have been humongous protests, of course, in some parts of Australia with huge crackdowns by the police. But the latest news is coming from news.com.au, where the Queensland Premier has announced a new quarantine facility that will be built in her state. According to the story here, it'll be a regional quarantine facility in Toowoomba, and I guess the town is called Wellcamp, or I'm not sure what they call these, political designations there. When I first saw this headline, I thought they were just calling the camp itself Wellcamp.
Yeah,
that's what they're.
The first thing he said was, "How Orwellian."
Yeah. But when asked whether, then they get into politics, whether some prime minister knew about it, she defended her decision not to tell the Commonwealth about the facility despite needing their approval for it to be used. Quote, "If you build it, they will come," she said. "It will be right outside of Toowoomba's airport." So I guess the idea is if you fly in and, you ain't from there, or even if you are from there, they're going to quarantine you in this facility, which they will describe here.
She says they will come. It sounds more like, we'll put them in there forcibly.
That's
You're
what
not
they're
going to put
going to
me
do.
in there voluntarily.
Right.
Not that I'm ever going to go to Australia, ever.
Quote, "But the Queensland government was always in a position to go ahead with the facility and to have people quarantined there rather than hotels." So the motivation for this, now I think they get into it a little bit later here, is apparently they've been using hotels to send people to. Oh, you've come into the province or whatever, the state, you need to go to quarantine over here at Best Western, or whatever designated hotel they have as the quarantine place. However, apparently the claim is that because people are walking down the same hallways in the hotel, it's not good enough for quarantine's sake because you're sharing a hallway with somebody, so therefore, germs or whatever. So now what they're going to do is they're going to build cabins. So the new facility will have 500 beds online by the end of the year. All cabins will be built by the end of March. So they're planning, according to another story I read, for 1,000 beds in this particular quarantine facility.
I wonder if I'm going to make some people mad right now, but I wonder how the governments would behave if this were actually a plague.
That's a good question. I think they'd go run and hide.
I think so, too.
Then maybe at least one politician would have gotten the thing.
Some politicians have gotten it, I think, right? Didn't Boris Johnson from the UK
I know Trump
get
got it, but nobody has died from it. Haven't heard of any politician dying from it.
And these people are not in the greatest condition either.
They're fat.
And old and...
Fat old greedy dudes. Power junkies.
The woman in charge there who floated the Toowoomba facility in January, so this has been in planning for the majority of the year here so far, said the regional quarantine facilities were a no-brainer. She says, "Our hotels were not built to be the last line of defense for a global pandemic. We're going to be dealing with Delta for some time, and if we want to open up Australia, regional quarantine facilities are the second part of the answer. The first part is a vaccine." So this is the first facility. She wants to have more facilities.
But the vaccines are supposed to be so effective that we can all go back to normal.
Yeah, that's what they keep saying.
They keep moving the goalposts. How does anybody buy this?
I don't know.
How is there one single person that keeps buying into this?
So then they talk about the construction corporation. Wagner Corporation is going to be doing this. "We need to make sure they're purpose-built and keeping our community safe."
Sounds like a concentration camp to me.
The facility will be made up of single, double, and family accommodation and cabins with their own balconies. There'll be no communal hallways, which authorities have attributed multiple hotel quarantine breaches to. Deputy Premier Stephen Miles said the new facility would provide businesses around the state peace of mind. Quote, "When you consider the last lockdown alone cost more than $1 billion in economic impact and compensation, this is fantastic value. If we can avoid just one lockdown, let alone more with this new facility, that would be fantastic."
But you can't avoid one lockdown when 250 out of 25 million people in the country have coronavirus. You just can't avoid that lockdown.
Well, you're right. That's what, they brought on lockdowns for a handful. I think it was one death or something like that in Sydney. This
was New
3
South
months
Wales.
ago. Right, New South Wales is the state, and then Sydney's the big city there. And they locked them down. So this is now how they're selling it. It used to be, if we can just save one life. Now it's if we can just avoid one lockdown. See, we just need quarantine camps.
How long is it going to be before they're cramming entire families into the singles and the family units are full of like 5 families and they've been in there forever and they can't get out?
Well, they'll just build more. See, they got plenty of money to throw at the construction contract.
Do you trust the government to let you out?
Great question. 603-283-6160. How do you feel about this? It's Free Talk Live.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live, and the number here, if you want to join us, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here in the studio tonight, you've got me, Ian,
Matt,
and Bonnie.
September 4th at 3:33 p.m. You can join the Smiles and Hugs for Peace virtual event. Now, I don't know if this is 3:33 p.m. Eastern or 3:33 p.m. anytime.
Well, it's originating in Manchester, is what Arya said yesterday.
Is
so
it? Okay.
it must be Eastern.
So it must be Eastern time. I'll double check on that, but you can join the Smiles and Hugs for Peace virtual event. You don't need any internet or digital device to participate. The virtuality consists of the fact that Star Child will not be physically present, but will manifest for you to the extent that your magical thinking allows you to conjure his presence. If you don't know who or what he is, don't view this as an impediment to whatever magic you may experience. To participate in the event, at approximately 3:33 p.m., you may hear the ringing of a bell or bells or other unusual sounds. Pause whatever you're doing, look around you, and start smiling. If you see someone else smiling, give that person a hug. If you see someone smiling and coming toward you, you will step up and give them a hug.
You will.
As you hug, hold this intention in your mind. A world based on love and cooperation, not coercion, is possible. And as a footnote here, both smiling and hugs are healthy and good for you, containing no carcinogens, trans fats, or high fructose corn syrup, and hopefully no artificial ingredients. I like it. And I happen to know who Star Child is, and Star Child's a pretty interesting libertarian character.
I didn't know it was a real person. I imagined like a fat wizard.
No, he's fairly thin.
in shape.
Yeah, he's big, tall, and thin, I guess you could say.
I didn't know if that was the same. I didn't know if we were talking
only
about
one
this.
Star Child.
Yeah, right. I mean, you would think, but maybe, But thanks for clarifying that for me.
Yeah, so check that out.
Aria was mad because yesterday I told her also September 4th is Beyonce's birthday. So now she knows that, and she's mad.
Maybe she forgot it. But the number here, 603-283-6160 is the number here. We're talking about Well Camp. Yes, they're going to soon be opening a 1,000-bed facility, expecting to have 500 of them ready to go by the end of this year in a place actually called Well Camp. I had to look it up just because I thought at first they were naming the camp itself Well Camp. But no, it's just a total coincidence. It's one of those things that you just can't make up.
Actually, it just makes me think that Conan might be right and Australia just isn't real.
Toowoomba
Have you been to Australia?
No.
Airport. Well, we know a girl that's from there. Naomi, what's her name?
Brockwell?
Yeah, Brockwell.
Oh.
Crypto.
Yeah,
girl.
I know who she is.
Yeah, she's from Australia.
Huh.
So they're doing this. They're moving forward with this, and they're using the lockdowns as the excuse. One of the deputy premier says, if we can avoid just one lockdown with this new facility, that would be fantastic. He also said it's a great boost for Toowoomba. There'll be a lot of local employment. See, like building a new prison in a small town.
Great. You can be an SS guard too.
Yeah, exactly. It'll help get Queensland out of COVID-19 and on the road to economic recovery which we desperately need. So, what do people think about this? Do they actually, like if they're in Toowoomba?
People, I think they're psychopaths.
I know what you think, but like the people in Australia, what are they thinking about this? Do they think that the government is going to actually build a 1,000-bed, multi-cabin quarantine facility and then just leave it behind and shut it down after a few months after they determine that enough people have gotten the vaccine and, okay, we're safe now in Queensland, so we're just going to shut down this 1,000-bed facility that we've created here?
Yeah, what does a 1,000-bed cabin with balconies look like? What do they call it, a cabin? Maybe.
Well, there's going to be multiple cabins.
Oh.
So the idea is they're going to keep people separated.
Are they going to put nets under the balconies by any chance?
So people don't jump?
Yes.
I don't know if they're going to be two-story. That wasn't made clear. I suspect that they won't be, but who knows? Who knows what this is going to look like? People who test positive for COVID-19 and cannot be treated in Toowoomba's hospitals will be transported to Brisbane for treatment. But presumably anybody coming into Toowoomba will be sent to this camp, which will be right next to the Toowoomba Well Camp Airport. And how many people live in this area, I don't know. I've not done that much research on it. But it's disturbing. This is coming.
I would say so.
This is coming. And if they can do it there, well, then they can do it here, can't they?
Sure. And people here will line up for those jobs. They can't wait.
And they'll also go to the facilities as well. In Saipan, they've been quarantining people in the Northern Mariana Islands, which is part of the United States. It's not its own state per se. It's one of the possessions or protectorates or whatever. But they've been quarantining people in a 4-star hotel, mind you. But, it's still a 2-week quarantine.
So this thing is for only travelers to
I
Australia?
suspect it will be for whoever they want to put.
Yeah,
in
right.
there.
Whoever they don't differentiate.
Anyone who needs to be quarantined, which at minimum will likely be travelers. And that would also include people who live in the state, because if you leave and come back, then they consider that you need to be quarantined as well.
Right.
And if you're sick and you're already living in the province or whatever, they might pick you up and take you there.
Huck you in there.
They've been doing this in Canada too for people who go back and forth from like the United States to Canada. They have to stay for like 2 weeks in a hotel.
Hotel.
Yeah, I should get my Canadian friend to call about it because I know he had to do it.
And it wasn't just Canada. They were doing that in some places in the United States, if I recall correctly. It was a voluntary thing. So if you crossed the border into New York, for instance, they wanted you to quarantine for 14 days. Now, they didn't have any real way of determining who was driving in, but they did know if you were flying in, and they were demanding phone numbers from people. They wanted, if you didn't give them your contact information.
The modern papers, please.
Yeah, when you flew into JFK or whatever, if you didn't give the New York bureaucrats your contact information so they could keep track of you while you were in and about the city or in and about the state of New York, then punishment would await you.
Do you remember that English guy that called last year? I wasn't on the show. I think it was like after I met you guys, but I wasn't on the show. I remember an English guy called in and said like his flat had flooded, and so he had to go stay in a hotel. So he just went to another town where his friend lived.
And they wouldn't let him, right?
Yeah, he tried to make a reservation that night in a hotel, and they asked like, they asked for a reason for him to stay. He made a reservation online,
right?
And he put his reason as like something just like random that he put because he didn't think it really mattered. When he got there, they were like, sorry, you can only stay here if you're staying here for work, and he had nowhere to go. His flat was flooded.
Didn't he end up like finding another hotel and lying to them or something like that? I forget what the rest of the story was.
I forgot what he did, but
yeah,
that's just
happened.
like so stupid.
Yep.
Like, we're a hotel, but we can't let you sleep here tonight.
Right, under
because you're not here for
government rules.
work. That doesn't even have anything to do with COVID. Like, if you were here for work, then yes, but since you're just here because your apartment is flooded, no, because COVID. That doesn't make any sense.
So you're going to be moving from people being forced to stay in hotels in Queensland to people forced to stay in a government-run quarantine camp.
Yay, now they don't have to pay the hotels.
That's absolutely what's happening. And that, again, good point there, Bonnie. These hotels are going to go out of business, right? Because they've been getting government money to try to help them keep their doors open and subsidize them. 603-283-6160. If you want to weigh in here, you can join us on the radio. This is Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. More than 100 people are dead, including 13 American military personnel and dozens of Afghan civilians, after 2 suicide bomb attacks at the Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attacks, which come as the U.S. conducts evacuation flights in preparation to completely end its military presence in Afghanistan after 20 years. President Biden has conceded the U.S. is depending on the Taliban's self-interest alone to get Americans out of Afghanistan and complete the mission there. He also pledged to hunt down the terrorists behind the attack. FSN's Nina Maria Potts has more from Washington.
U.S. President Biden paid tribute to the 12 U.S. servicemen killed in the attack, saying they're part of the bravest, most capable and most selfless military on earth. But he conceded that the U.S. has to rely on the Taliban's self-interest to negotiate the extraction of those left behind.
It's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of mutual self-interest.
It's still unclear what the president plans to do next, amid claims the U.S. will go looking for Americans, Afghans with green cards and those loyal to America who've been stranded. But he defended his decision to pull out despite the costs.
Imagine where we'd be if I had indicated on May the 1st I was not going to renegotiate evacuation date.
Amid warnings more attacks could follow, there's so far no plan to put additional troops on the ground to boost security.
Despite the threat of more attacks, the U.S. Department of Defense says it is continuing to evacuate people from the country. FSN's Nick Harper reports.
At a Pentagon briefing, Marine General Kenneth McKenzie confirmed the news that 12 U.S. servicemen had died in the attack and 15 more were injured. He said ISIS-K, the ISIS affiliate in Afghanistan, was responsible, and he warned that more attacks were expected and could occur at any moment. But he said the U.S. evacuations would continue.
While we're saddened by the loss of life, both U.S. and Afghan, we're continuing to execute the mission. Our mission is to evacuate U.S. citizens, third country nationals, special immigrant visa holders, U.S. Embassy staff, and Afghans at risk.
General McKenzie also said the U.S. had no plans at present to bring more troops to the country to help with the evacuation effort. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has chaired an emergency COBRA meeting to discuss the increasingly dangerous situation in Afghanistan. Despite the explosions, Johnson says the UK's evacuation efforts will go on as the August 31st deadline approaches.
I want to stress that we're going to continue with that operation, and we're now coming towards the end of it, to the very end of it, in any event.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The number, if you want to join us, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here with you in the studio, it's Ian,
Matt,
and Bonnie.
Of course, you can bring up anything you want. More coming out of Australia because, well, that's where the biggest crackdown, the biggest tyranny is right now, at least in the Western world, as far as COVID response is concerned. It's not just quarantine camps, as we've been discussing for the first part of the show. Of course, you're still welcome to weigh in on that. But also, there's more freedoms. They're announcing new freedoms in New South Wales. We'll tell you all about those newfound freedoms that, yes, you too can have a taste of freedom if you're in New South Wales.
I got to hear about this.
Yeah, that's coming up here tonight. Of course, your calls and thoughts are welcome. Also, Bitcoin.com, the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. You can go there now, click on Get Started at the top of the page, and you will learn the basics about Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, cryptocurrency in general. It's time you take the time to do this. You don't have to take a lot of time. If you got less than 10 minutes, less than 5 minutes. I think the first introductory video is like 3-ish minutes long. So go there, click Get Started at Bitcoin.com. You can start learning about cryptocurrency. If you are not new to crypto and you want to get the latest news headlines, go to news.bitcoin.com, and they will hook you up there with all kinds of news and information every single day of the week, updated daily. So check it out over at news.bitcoin.com. We're going to your phone calls and thoughts. Justo is on the line in Houston, Texas, watching us on YouTube. Go ahead, Justo.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
I feel like I'm being, gaslit here so badly. I'm going crazy, with these mask mandates. Plot after plot, graph after graph clearly demonstrates that there's always COVID spikes after mask mandates. So it's I just don't understand how they can justify these mask positions. Even a statist can see plots before COVID spikes before and after a mask mandate. You don't have to have any particular ideology to notice that there's spikes after mask mandates, but like I don't understand how these people can still persist in these mask mandates. Like,
Yeah.
it's driving me insane here.
I'm tired of acting like there's some kind of science behind it when there's just not. That's like the worst part about it. Sometimes my brain goes to, like if I gotta go in here and wear one, like I'll do it to be polite, but it's really not to be polite. It's just to help these mentally ill people feel okay. It's like doing, superstition to make a bunch of like crazy hicks feel better. So it's starting to get really annoying to me too. Like I think that the reason that you're saying there's spikes right after every time the mask mandate goes in is because literally these things are petri dishes. I got strep throat multiple times at the beginning of COVID because I was always wearing a mask to go around doing Uber Eats. And I think that they just create regular illnesses. People go to the hospital say, oh, you have COVID, and it's really just like strep throat or something. And yeah, it's just disgusting to
Because
wear
the
a
hospital
petri
gets
dish.
paid more, right? If they say somebody's got COVID.
Yeah, it's just disgusting to wear a petri dish on your face.
Agreed. Justo, what are you encountering there in Texas? I mean, I did a quick search, and I did find that apparently school districts are mandating masks. Is there a Houston city mask mandate coming into play, or statewide? Has there been some announcement, or what's going on?
Well, there's a kind of like a battle between the leader of democratically led cities and the governor.
Mm-hmm.
So the governor had earlier instituted a rule whereby any government like municipality couldn't institute mask mandates, which was good. But then now these counties are wanting to institute mask mandates at a school district level,
Mm-hmm.
and the courts have ruled in their favor.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Harris
now-
County granted temporary restraining order, pausing Governor Abbott's order banning mask mandates.
Isn't Harris, is that
Right.
Austin?
No, it's Houston. Yeah, it's Houston. So
Travis
like,
County, I
I'm
think is
really
also.
concerned. Yeah, I'm concerned about like I don't like the fact that mask mandates have to be rescinded only at the whims of a governor. But it's better to have freedom to do that or not.
Well, if there are
even
enough
under those-
people who are saying no, then the mask mandates are rescinded. I mean, if you have enough people who refuse to obey these mandates, then there are no mandates because they don't have enough facilities, meaning jails, to put people into. And Justo, thanks for the call tonight. I definitely understand the frustration. I think a lot of freedom-friendly people around the world are equally frustrated because, it must feel very, very lonely to be there in a city the size of Houston, which is one of the top, 7 markets, I think, in the United States.
Yeah.
Massive place.
I'm sorry that it's taken this long. Sorry, Bonnie. I'm sorry that it's taken this long for people to come around. Like, I'm from upstate New York, right? And I've got people messaging me now saying, man, I wish I'd moved to New Hampshire when you moved. It's like,
it's not too late.
Well, it's not too late. And now's the time, if there ever was a time to hit the eject button, this is it, bud. You got to go.
Time's running out.
Yeah, time is running out now.
Yeah, we just helped some new movers from New York who were an elderly couple
Nice. Yeah.
move up here, and they were awesome.
They are awesome.
I wish I could have gone to that. I was
know.
tethered here to the house, but if I'd had a week's notice, I could have probably asked for permission for my federal handler to let me out for that. But that's one of the things that happens here because there's such a large community of freedom-friendly people. And this was, I think, Bonnie's first move-in that she's ever gone to before.
That was your first one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
don't
do this
think
all the time.
I mean, except for my own move-in.
Right.
It's great if you move to Keene, we will put together
Or
a
anywhere in
posse
New Hampshire.
to
This happens anywhere in New
Anywhere,
Hampshire.
but we want to get people to move to Keene. Keene's cool. Move here.
Keane's cool, but some people need the jobs in the big city. and,
Yeah.
But there's going to be people who show up, no matter where you are, Seacoast, even the North Country. I'm pretty sure they can put together a crew.
Yeah.
But basically, you plan to move to New Hampshire as part of the. Well, it doesn't matter if it's a Free
The
State
Liberty
Project.
Migration. We don't care if you're
Free
why
State
you're coming.
Project, Shire Society.
If you're Liberty
whatever.
people, we will put together a group of people to come unload your rider truck in about 5 minutes.
It can be a little longer than that, but usually it's no more than an hour. I mean, we've taken a full 26-foot truck packed to the brim.
That was nuts.
And
That was a particularly rough one. But
unloaded that in less than an hour.
Yeah.
That's happened. And it happens all the time. So what you do is you just, give folks a heads up. Go drop by the Shire Society forums over at forum.shiresociety.com and let people know, hey, we're coming to this town and on this day and at this time and this location, we need help. And people will come out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could be a dozen, it could be 2 dozen. I've seen 3 dozen people.
I know.
You never know what you're going to get because people have to work or whatever. So
we kind of expect pizza or Dunkin' Donuts depending on the time of day.
Yeah, if it's early in the morning, I recommend doing it in the afternoon just because libertarians are terrible with mornings generally. So you'll get more people showing up if it's in the afternoon, but any time of the day, somebody's going to be there. And thank you, by the way, Husto, for your call tonight. I appreciate it. So that's what it's going to take is if you are feeling alone, if you are feeling like there's no one in your region that is like you, and if you're a liberty-minded person, that's not an uncommon perspective. If you feel like you're surrounded by mask-obedient people and a bunch of tyrants and that people love to be told what to do and there's no resistance whatsoever, there's no refuseniks around, no non-cooperatives or civil disobedience or anything like that, there's no energy, there's no chance that anything's going to change.
We got loads of it.
And I'm telling you, there's no chance that anything's going to change for the better where you are. And the reason why is because you're not growing. Your movement, whatever it is, it's no movement because it's not moving anywhere. It's not growing. There's not more people coming into it. There's not, endless amounts of participation coming from the outside because there's nothing there.
I should have mentioned to Husto that I'm from San Antonio, Texas, and I moved here for that reason.
You like it so far?
Yep, and it's way better. Like, I love San Antonio.
I mean, you had friends, obviously, in San Antonio.
Yeah, I had friends, and I'm going to go visit my friends soon, hopefully, if there's no vaccine
if you're
mandate.
allowed on an airplane.
Yeah, if I'm allowed on an airplane before then, if I'm not too diseased for them.
603-283-6160. I'm seeing people posting on social media more than ever that they're either checking out New Hampshire for the first time, they're coming up here to, scope it out, or they just decided to move, or they just closed on a house. Like, it seems like a lot more people are coming.
Stop waiting, just do it.
I recommend it.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live, and if you want to join us here on the radio, you can dial in. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here in the studio, it's Ian,
Matt,
and Bonnie.
Got some, actually, there's a little bit of good news. Somehow, a study has snuck through the cracks and has made it into, well, in this case, a website called Unheard, UNHERD.com. A bombshell study finds, here you go, here's a shocker, natural immunity is superior to vaccination.
What?
Wow. If the findings are confirmed, the implications for COVID policy will be profound. Oh, don't worry, they'll ignore this. There's no implications for COVID policy here.
Ron Paul on the Liberty Report a few days ago had a recording of Anthony Fauci.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Anthony Fauci?
That's him, yeah.
Yeah. Had an early recording of him saying that if you have a vaccination, this is before there was a vaccination, he was saying, if you are vaccinated against the virus and you then, or do you say, if you have antibodies and then you get vaccinated, it's the worst thing you could do.
And they're saying the complete opposite now.
They're saying the complete opposite now. We also found out that the head of the NIH is Anthony, what's his name? Anthony Fauci's
he was the
wife.
head of the NIH.
No, his wife is the head of their research, the one that puts the rubber stamp on everything.
And he's like the spokesperson or something.
Her last name is Woodcock, right?
I think so.
And for some reason they have a different last name, but they're married.
They're one of those relationships.
Our
deep love.
Doctor actually told us that. He said, I wouldn't recommend getting the vaccination because if you guys have both already had it and, well, I know I've already had it. I don't know. I can't remember if you had it.
I don't know. I got sick once in January of last year for like a day.
But he said if you've already had it, I would not recommend getting the vaccine because there's just no need for it. Natural immunity is superior to vaccine immunity.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes
Clearly,
the most
that
sense.
doctor is a quack and
Yeah,
doesn't
he's a
know what he's
quack.
talking about.
He's just been a quack for 40 years.
Right. That makes sense to me. And
to
that's-
normal people.
Yeah, but
who
they've
aren't
been
insane.
promoting the exact opposite for months now, where they've been saying, oh, well, if you've already had it, you need the vaccine to help boost your immunity. It'll make you stronger against the COVIDs.
It's just a little injection of help.
And tell that to the people who've died because of this injection, because of blood clots and other maladies. They've had miscarriages, supposedly, as a result of this.
Yeah, they actually admitted that a BBC News reporter died of extremely rare, they said, blood clots due to one of the injections. I can't remember which one it is right now. I think Moderna? No, it was AstraZeneca.
What was she, in her 50s or
She was
something
like in her 40s.
Yeah.
She was
I
so
saw a
blonde.
picture of some blood that, like, under a microscope. That somebody took a photo of a microscopic picture, whatever you want to call it, and they're showing these red blood cells, which are nice puffy cells, typically the saucer-shaped cells, except they were all like punctured and flattened, and they were basically piling up on each other, and they couldn't move because they were all deflated. And there was good blood cells like piling up behind them, and there's your clot.
Oh, did you guys hear that now Johnson & Johnson is pushing a booster?
No.
Yeah, I heard that on the news.
Aren't they the one that you only need one shot?
Well, that's what you thought, and now they've got a booster because
Oh, my
Delta.
God.
So you need, you got to come back for another shot of the Johnson & Johnson. Now is what they're saying.
These people are traitors.
Yeah, they want to make money. You can't make as much money if you only have a one-off shot, right? Like if you got boosters, you're making way more money. So Johnson & Johnson is jumping on the booster train. At least that's what I heard on the radio news within the last 24 hours.
I saw a funny meme, somebody saying that they were just sitting back with a bowl of popcorn waiting for the third booster shot people to start attacking the second booster shot people.
Ooh, yeah. They'll feel superior.
You've only had 2 booster shots?
Researchers at Maccabi Healthcare and Tel Aviv University compared the outcomes of over 76,000 Israelis. That's a large sample size in 3 groups. The doubly vaccinated, people who had specifically the Pfizer vaccine, the previously infected but unvaccinated, and the previously infected with only a single vaccine dose. So those are the 3 groups that they looked at. They found that fully vaccinated but uninfected people were significantly more likely to have a so-called breakthrough COVID infection than people who had previously been infected and had recovered from the disease.
So just a regular COVID infection, but they're calling it breakthrough to make it seem like it was harder to happen, even though that makes no sense. They have the weakest immunity to it, so...
Quote, the study demonstrated that a natural immunity confers longer lasting and stronger protection against infection, symptomatic disease, and hospitalization caused by the Delta variant. So specifically looking at the most big bad Delta variant, they say that that's the best way to stay safe. The study is only published as a preprint at this stage and has not yet been peer-reviewed. Critics include the British immunologist. They point out there are potential limitations, but it has been described by infectious diseases expert Professor Francois Balloux as a bombshell development. So it's early yet at this point, but that's what makes sense to me. That's what your body was designed to do, was fight this stuff off.
I've got to think this is, at the highest levels, this is definitely a conspiracy, and I think the most important part of the conspiracy is just see how far they can push. They want to know how many stupid people out there are and how gullible they can get and how much they can force them into with pure fear.
Now, here's, Bonnie, you were saying something, speaking of conspiracies in this particular subject, you were suggesting that maybe the vaccine is designed to kill people, like long-term, whether it's immediately or within a few years. But wouldn't they want to keep the obedient ones alive and kill the disobedient ones? That's what doesn't make sense.
I thought about it now. I think that they just want to kill as many people as possible because even the people who are obedient now could change their mind if they get pushed too hard. So they want to kill as many people as possible, probably most of the people that take this vaccine, which is already most of Americans according to their numbers.
And I've got high hopes in a kind of a morbid way. They are requiring government people in the entire military to take it.
Yeah.
So
but I don't know if they're going to give them the real one.
Why wouldn't they?
Why wouldn't they just give them the saline solution and say they're vaccinated against COVID-19 since these vaccines do nothing anyway? Nothing will happen to them. They'll just think, oh, my vaccine must be working. It's just saline solution.
You just ruined all my hopes of watching all these evil, violent types.
Like I saw a picture
not being
of
able to reproduce or whatever.
I don't know her name, but the really freaking scary looking mayor of Chicago. She looks like not even human.
Yeah, she looks like Skeletor.
I saw a picture of her getting a vaccine, and I was just like, why would that prove anything? It's just a picture. That could totally just be water.
Hey, look at me. I'm a politician. You can trust me.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Bonnie.
So
who knows what they're getting?
What Ian's referring to, like me saying that they're trying to kill people. The other night I was telling my parents, like, first of all, please don't get the vaccine. I don't think that they ever would. My parents are already anti-vaxxers in general. But so I was just like, please don't get the vaccine. And also, please stop eating processed food and start eating whole foods. You know, in Revelations, like, I'm not a Christian, but my parents are. The Bible says that God will take care of his chosen people in the end and feed them. Yeah, God gave you these whole foods. He doesn't want you to eat processed stuff that isn't even food anymore. He wants you to eat whole foods so you have actual immunity to diseases, and not just coronavirus, just any disease, because they're killing most of the healthcare workers with this vaccine. Probably that's what I expect to happen. And even if they don't kill them all, they're making such a shortage that if you have to go to the doctor for like a regular thing now, it could possibly, like, you might get pushed back so long that you die from it. You just don't want to have to go to the doctor.
If they'll even let you into the hospital.
You just don't want to have an actual need right now for the doctors, because what they're doing right now, it's not a win if, all the hospitals are going to be sorry because all the nurses quit. It's not a win because we need hospitals.
Yeah, it's interesting that there's different reasons why nurses and doctors are being pushed out. One of them is because, well, there's so much demand and so few employees right now. Like, the ones that are there are getting overwhelmed, and they're like, screw this.
They're worn out.
I'm walking. I'm out of here. So
yeah, that's what I would do. Like, I almost feel bad saying it, because it's just like some people who want to be nurses, they really just want to go in there and care for people. First of all, it's just not my calling. I feel like if I was a nurse right now, I'd be like, screw this. I'm going to go be a waitress again and make just as much money and not have to deal with all this crap or something else. Maybe not a waitress, but, whatever.
I hope that what we see out of, but then there's also there's the people like Nikki, who, your girlfriend, she's a nurse, and the hospital that she works at is like a lot of hospitals coming down with the mandate that you got to get the vaccine.
Yeah, and a lot of her colleagues are like, no.
Yeah, a lot of them are going to take a walk. And
they're either going to quit or they're going to get fired.
So that is not a small hospital. That is a major hospital on the East Coast.
And that's what it's going to take for these policies to be reversed, is for enough staff to say, no, I'm not doing this. And then the administrators of the hospital are like, oh, crap, what do? We literally have no one left, or nearly no one left on staff. So they would have to reverse that plan, but it's still a rough job to be in, and I wouldn't blame anybody for wanting to walk and like hang out their own shingle and start their own thing. More coming up.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. More than 100 people are dead, including 13 American military personnel and dozens of Afghan civilians, after 2 suicide bomb attacks at the Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attacks, which come as the U.S. conducts evacuation flights in preparation to completely end its military presence in Afghanistan after 20 years. President Biden has conceded the U.S. is depending on the Taliban's self-interest alone to get Americans out of Afghanistan and complete the mission there. He also pledged to hunt down the terrorists behind the attack. FSN's Nina Maria Potts has more from Washington.
U.S. President Biden paid tribute to the 12 U.S. servicemen killed in the attack, saying they're part of the bravest, most capable and most selfless military on earth. But he conceded that the U.S. has to rely on the Taliban's self-interest to negotiate the extraction of those left behind.
It's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of mutual self-interest.
It's still unclear what the president plans to do next, amid claims the U.S. will go looking for Americans, Afghans with green cards and those loyal to America who've been stranded. But he defended his decision to pull out despite the costs.
Imagine where we'd be if I had indicated on May the 1st I was not going to renegotiate evacuation date.
Amid warnings more attacks could follow, there's so far no plan to put additional troops on the ground to boost security.
Despite the threat of more attacks, the U.S. Department of Defense says it is continuing to evacuate people from the country. FSN's Nick Harper reports.
At a Pentagon briefing, Marine General Kenneth McKenzie confirmed the news that 12 U.S. servicemen had died in the attack and 15 more were injured. He said ISIS-K, the ISIS affiliate in Afghanistan, was responsible, and he warned that more attacks were expected and could occur at any moment. But he said the U.S. evacuations would continue.
While we're saddened by the loss of life, both U.S. and Afghan, we're continuing to execute the mission. Our mission is to evacuate U.S. citizens, third country nationals, special immigrant visa holders, U.S. Embassy staff, and Afghans at risk.
General McKenzie also said the U.S. had no plans at present to bring more troops to the country to help with the evacuation effort. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has chaired an emergency COBRA meeting to discuss the increasingly dangerous situation in Afghanistan. Despite the explosions, Johnson says the UK's evacuation efforts will go on as the August 31st deadline approaches.
I want to stress that we're going to continue with that operation, and we're now coming towards the end of it, to the very end of it, in any event.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the enormously difficult calculations that US allies must make in light of President Biden's decision to withdraw American troops from Kabul airport next Tuesday. His international partners have to decide whether there is any prospect of them being able to keep their own troops in Afghanistan, absent the vital air cover and military protection that the US has traditionally provided. Colonel Richard Kemp is the former commander of British forces in Afghanistan. He is evidently frustrated by the decision today's commanders have to make.
If we don't have the ability to hold on to an airport, a relatively small airport, then I'm not quite sure what all our defence spending is for. But on the other hand, there are other things to balance as well as just forces and political will, one of which is the potentially immense risks to those people we're trying to get out. And if we manage, due to remaining there after the deadline, and have clashes with the Taliban, and the Taliban start killing the people we're trying to get out, then of course that is the opposite to what we're trying to achieve.
As things stand, Britain and France are now beginning to wind up their evacuation efforts at Kabul airport, both countries still urging President Biden to extend the US operation there. But the British Defence Secretary is now telling British citizens who get left behind to try and make their own way to one of Afghanistan's international borders. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. More than 100 people are dead, including 13 American military personnel and dozens of Afghan civilians, after 2 suicide attacks in Afghanistan. President Biden defends his decision to set an exit deadline and pledges to hunt down the terrorists behind the attack. And the U.S. Department of Defense says it is continuing to evacuate people from the country. That is the latest feature story news. Ira Spitzer reporting.
Joan Cress Beckman From cling jumpers to politicians to coyotes, the straight shooter that shook up the presidential race is taking them all on and licking them good.
Hello, Joe.
Who and what's behind these potato monkey shines?
Well, these scientists are trying to mass-produce potatoes that are more resistant to disease, but they're doing so in potentially dangerous ways that alter their DNA.
Tater disease, what brung us Irish.
Right.
You give a tater man's constitution, you can bet he's coming to play old Joe to call.
Yes, well, nature's revenge could come in the form of disease
now you listen
or
to
allergens.
me, taters. You got gave a mind of a tater.
Joe, please, let me make my point.
You're tater-minded and you're looking to infiltrate old Joe's cabin, but you're too late.
No.
Now you get out,
All
or
right,
I'll
Judd.
slice your tater heart out and fry it up on my grill.
Okay, Judd.
Now y'all stay close. You're gonna have my jug band back here, and if Jasper don't let me strum the washboard, we're gonna resort to cutting.
This is the Onion News Network. Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the second hour of the program here. The number is 603-283-6160 here in studio. It's Ian,
Matt,
and Bonnie.
Of course, you can bring up anything that you want. That is the point here on Free Talk Live. Coming up, the New South Wales government is announcing newfound freedoms. How do you get new freedoms? Well, it's New South Wales, so you can probably guess if you've been paying attention to Free Talk Live over the last 2 months, as we've been following their insane lockdowns that they've been having there in New South Wales. We'll dig into that here in just a moment. Also, New York Mayor Bill de Blasio is weighing in on vaccines for children and mandates. We'll talk about that too. Of course, you can bring up anything. Bonnie, during the break, you were telling us that your younger brother, who is in the military, he is facing, of course, this new mandatory vaccine, because now that the FDA has approved the Pfizer vaccine for full-on FDA approval earlier this week, the Pentagon has announced that all military members, including, I believe, National Guardsmen, are required.
What?
Yep, are required to get the Pfizer vaccine.
That's
Yeah.
what you get for being property.
Yeah, so I had asked him yesterday, and that's the thing. He's taken all the other vaccines, but this one is just different. Like, to most people who don't want to take it, they're not even anti-vaxxers. Like, he doesn't mind taking a vaccine to be in the military, but he doesn't want to take this one because it's experimental. No
Well,
matter
they're going
what.
to say it's not an experiment. Now it's fully approved.
Oh yeah, it's fully approved.
So it's not an experiment anymore.
It's still an experiment because even medicines that get tested for a decade then get FDA approval. 5 years later, there will be something that comes out, oh, sorry, they actually have this side effect. We didn't know about it yet. That's it. You can't say that in less than a year a vaccine comes out and it's not experimental. I don't care what definitions you change it to. But anyways, yesterday I had texted my brother and asked him, Christian, so has anyone in like your chain of command or something told you like, get ready, we're going to have to take the vaccines at this date or anything like that? And he had texted me earlier today, we know about as much about it as you do. And I was like, okay, that's weird because the Pentagon is saying that you guys have to take it, but whatever. And then less than 20 minutes ago, he texted me, dang it, we have by the end of September to get it. And he also said his plan isn't going to work because his plan was just to fail his PT test and get kicked out, which is it that easy to get kicked out? I don't know, but that was his plan if they've mandated vaccines. But he said his PT test isn't until November, so now he's got
PT is physical
training.
training.
Yeah, so now he's got to figure out what to do to get out of the military or get out of taking the shots.
And how many years has he been in the military?
Like a year and a half.
Oh, he's new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
He's only doing 5 years.
That's one of those questions that's always interesting to hear from people. You know, like what was your experience? Were you kicked out? Did you want to get out of the military? And you know, did it work? Whatever approach it was that you used, like, did you all of a sudden announce that you were gay? Did you announce that you've started taking crazy amounts of LSD?
Now.
Oh yeah, that's right. That one doesn't work anymore. What if you tell them you're taking a lot of LSD and smoking a ton of pot? Is that good enough to get you kicked out these days? Because they're still against that stuff, right? Of course, a lot of people are concerned with how they get removed from the military. There's the honorable discharge, and then there's the dishonorable discharge, and I don't know what the other ones are. I think
they will screw your life forever if you have dishonorable discharge.
Will they, though?
But will it really? Because that's how it was in like probably the 80s. Oh, I'm not hiring
you can't
this
vote,
Sonny.
You can't own a gun. I
Oh.
mean, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know you couldn't own a gun.
Yeah, I
You
didn't
lose
know
a lot
that
of stuff.
either.
It's basically like catching a felony.
Wow. See, I had no idea about that. That's interesting. If you have been in the military, though, and you've gotten out earlier than your agreement or whatever, the 8 years, I think, that they demand that you stay in.
This is why you don't. Sorry, this is why you don't get in a contract with the military.
There, my friend Brian did find that the military wasn't all he thought it was going to be, and he wanted to go to the military for a long time since we were little. And then when he finally did, he wasn't really up for it, and there was a way out for him, and he didn't get dishonorably discharged, and it wasn't a medical discharge. I think he called it like a liberty discharge or something like that, or that they came up with some other thing. So I don't know if that's an option, whatever that was. Maybe I can find out what that was.
Apparently a dishonorable discharge is reserved for people convicted of violence or serious misconduct, crimes that are equivalent to a felony. So whether, saying that you take LSD would be considered that, I don't know.
That's what I was just thinking, because I was like going to tell him just take some drugs, but maybe he.
I don't
can't
even
do
know if you
that.
actually have to take the drugs. You could just like tell them or something. I don't know. That's why I
They probably
asked for
piss test
people.
you.
That's why I asked for people who've been in the military and who've actually successfully gotten out. Because
I
the
know-
three of us, we haven't.
Yeah, my mom got out in the 90s.
I successfully didn't go in.
Yeah,
Yeah, me
that's
too.
the best path.
My mom got out in the 90s from getting pregnant with my sister, but I don't know if they even do that anymore.
So here's the question. If you're in the military, another question, if you are in the military and you refuse to take this vaccine, what will happen to you?
I don't know.
Will-
I don't think anybody's tried yet because
Right.
they have until September.
Well, I mean, there may be other people who have refused other vaccines. So
there
what
was a
happened to
test
you?
run for this a long time ago. I had friends in the military during, like, right after 9/11
Mhm.
or, during 9/11, and that's when the anthrax attacks were taking place, the quote-unquote anthrax
Where
attacks.
people were getting mailed anthrax. Yeah.
And then they were doing anthrax vaccines, again, on all the military people. You had to take an anthrax vaccine. I don't even know if that's, that was a pretty quickly rushed to market vaccine as well.
When I lived on Dugway, they don't have a
This is a
mayor.
military base.
Dugway Proving Grounds, Utah. It's a military base. They don't have like a mayor there. They have I'm trying to remember what it's called right now. It's not a general, but it might be a general.
Top bureaucrat.
Just a top military officer, not a regular one. It's an officer. Can't remember. Colonel. They have a colonel in charge, and he's like the mayor basically of the town, and he's in charge of all the military on the base and everybody.
Mhm.
And so the one that was there right before I moved had gotten kicked off and like sent somewhere else. They don't kick you out of the military when you're that high up, I don't think, because while he was the colonel of Dugway, anthrax accidentally got mailed, like very unsecurely to Washington D.C. from Dugway.
Really?
Yeah, it was like it's a huge scandal.
According to the Miami Herald, published August 9th of this year, what would happen if troops refuse? According to the story, U.S. Secretary of Defense announced, this is again, they're talking about it back then, now it's a mandatory thing, and let's see. Austin added that military officials will have more to say about this as implementation plans are fully developed. For now, what remains unclear is what kind of consequences, if any, military members will face if they refuse to get vaccinated. Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby said he won't speculate on what those consequences might be just yet. But military officials have said in the past that refusal to receive any mandated vaccine could constitute failure to obey an order and may be punishable under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So for listeners that don't know, when you join the military, you agree to following this code, which is its own set of laws that's specific for the military.
Probably don't even know what they're signing into.
Probably have no idea. And it's one of those things where they can change the code
Yeah.
even though you already signed it.
And they just want a Camaro.
Yeah, the signing bonus, you mean?
They just really want a Camaro and free college.
If the COVID vaccine mandate mirrors that of the mandatory anthrax vaccine immunization program that began in 1998, then some military members who refuse the shot may choose to leave the service or face consequences like lost rank and pay or brig time, which is military prison, according to the Military Times. So if that's the choice, then that's a decent choice. All right, see you later.
I wouldn't want to.
If there are any military, like higher up type people listening, call into the show and tell us straight what's the deal.
I wouldn't want to be a military person in the brig right now, still in the military, still property of the government, while they're mandating vaccines. They're just going to go around and make everybody take it, and you're going to be in jail.
Force it on you?
Probably. Why wouldn't they? You're their property, and you signed up for it.
If it's a choice, why anyone would choose to go to the brig and stay in the military just to avoid the vaccine? Like, if they actually let you choose to leave, that is the easiest option. Just
away.
Get out of there. Go and do something productive with your life, and then you don't have to worry about these psychopaths sending you to your doom in some sand pit.
Go home.
Or
Hang out
some,
with your family.
Jungle somewhere. The number here is 603-283-6160. Because even though Biden has, and is withdrawing people from Afghanistan, that doesn't mean he won't just start a war tomorrow.
That's right.
Somewhere else and send you off to die in the name of the state. 603-283-6160. Speaking of people that love the state, we'll get to the New York City mayor's comments coming up. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. If you want to join us, you can. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Coming up, Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York City. He's got something to say about mandatory vaccines and children getting the vaccine.
Yikes.
That's where they're going with
Psychos.
this.
Nutcases.
Yeah.
He said, I don't want them to take it because then their blood won't taste as good.
Oh, zing. We'll continue here with the news, but your calls and thoughts come first. And don't forget, you can join us online over at freetalklive.com. We got a lot of features. Our social media site is there at social.freetalklive.com. Bonnie, you're on it. I'm on it. A lot of some of the Free Talk Live co-hosts are. You can follow us there and follow other Free Talk Live listeners who are posting regularly. You can check it out over at social.freetalklive.com. It's our own social media platform. It's a Mastodon platform, which means it looks and it acts like Twitter, but it's not Twitter. There's no big media corporation behind it. We're behind it, so you get more freedom to express yourself over at social.freetalklive.com. We're going to your phone calls and thoughts. Dion is on the line with us here, calling from Huntsville, Alabama, listening to WBHP. Go ahead, Dion.
Yes, hi. I'm going to try to be succinct with this, and I hope that it's helpful to your listeners. But I can tell you that I work for Veterans Affairs, and I'm not going to go more into that, but I can tell you that I was former military, and I work with military every day, all day, in the capacity of my duties. I can tell you for a fact that there are many active duty military personnel that are not on board with this mandatory vaccine, so much so that they have been contacting various law groups in the area, at least in my catchment area, and I can imagine that's just across the country. And I know that, for example, anthrax, you guys were talking about that, there has already been settlements for anthrax because it has severe adverse reactions, and if anybody can document that they had the anthrax, they will be listed since the suit already went through, I think in 2017, they'll automatically be compensated monetarily for that. So all they have to do is just look that up.
That's if they took it. That's if they took it. Now, the numbers here show, according to MiamiHerald.com, the Pentagon notes that 350 troops approximately refused the anthrax shot between 1998 and 2000. At least 36 of them were court-martialed, but hundreds of them left the service to avoid the vaccine. So it sounds like if people refuse this thing, they might be given the opportunity to just walk away. Do you think that's the case?
No. And no, that won't happen. Now, the ones that, for example, I know people personally who did take anthrax. They were going over to Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and they took that, and they also took things from a biological weapon so that they would be basically immune from those type of attacks. So they took a lot of things for nerve gas, for example, multiple, and some of them ended up with things like a form of lupus and leukemia. And so those are the ones I'm talking about that are automatically compensated monetarily because, you know, just like a lot of pharmaceutical products that are out there, eventually there's class action lawsuits when they find out what it does. So I said all that to say that this particular COVID vaccine, there is no clause in which to get out of this. Really? However, there is, and there was just filed in court either yesterday or today, in fact. In the state of Colorado, they filed a class action lawsuit of military people saying that they did not want to take the COVID vaccine. And this is going to be an interesting case. It's going to set precedents because they're saying they don't want to take it because they already had COVID and they have active antibodies.
Right.
And as such, they don't believe that it would do any good. In fact, it may do harm. So that's going to be the slippery slope that they're going to use.
Interesting.
And so you just got to follow it. I've been following this every day, ever since, because I knew it was going to come a time where we wouldn't have a choice. And where I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs, we were also told that by the same deadline, September 8th, 100% of all employees must have the vaccine.
Wow.
I'm going a different route because, again, you just have to start looking up and seeing what you can do, you know, if you're lucky enough to
So what's your
have
plan?
a doctor that will give you. Well, quite frankly, you can get an exemption. They're very difficult to get. But that is the route I'm taking because I will not be, I refuse to do it.
Is this like a medical exemption, a religious exemption?
There are two. So far, there's medical and there is religion. Now, I can tell you because of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, you can get a religious exemption. It's written right in there. Thank goodness it does allow for that. It's in the law. Until they change it, and to do that, they would have to go all the way up to the Supreme Court to do that. So I listed the statute. When I wrote for my exemption, I listed the law that it was under, and not only that, but the Americans with Disabilities Act. It also falls under that. You just have to know. You just have to start looking things up, and you'd be surprised. But there's a lot of support, I have to say, from the online community about this on things like Rumble, and not so much YouTube because we know.
No, they don't let any dissenters on YouTube anymore.
No.
Hey, Dion, thanks for the heads up. Thanks for your opinions on this as somebody who's currently working for the VA. And feel free to call us again with any kind of updates on this.
Good luck.
Good luck with your approach. I appreciate hearing from you.
Yes.
So 603-283-6160. Let's talk to Chris. He's in Oregon. Chris, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Chris.
I'm calling from Portland, Oregon. Just wanted to run this by you guys. So as you know, more and more places are rolling out these vaccine mandates, and Oregon's following suit.
Really?
It's initially started with healthcare hospital workers being mandated to get the vaccines, and then that's sort of progressed into different private businesses.
So hold on, just to clarify something, are you saying the state of Oregon has ordered all healthcare workers to get the vaccine, or is it just coming through the companies themselves?
Or you know what, it could be the companies themselves.
Because I did see the Oregon governor did announce there's now a outdoor mask mandate in the state, regardless of vaccination status. So that much I have seen coming from the state.
Yes. Yeah, so I could, I'm not entirely sure whether it's the state mandating it or if it's the hospitals themselves, but whatever the case, somebody's mandating it, and it's this you know, like snowball kind of thing where you know, a lot of people thought like, oh, it's just going to be healthcare workers because, you know, sure, they're working with COVID patients, you know, it seems reasonable to to want them to have precautions from that, right? But now it's just this, okay, now we're taking it to private businesses and they can mandate it. And now it's going to be like, all businesses are potentially. Right?
What's your plan, Chris?
Well, I'm kind of figuring that out now.
Does it involve New Hampshire living?
Potentially, if things get really bad here.
Don't wait.
What would it mean? Maybe. I mean, when you say really bad,
it already is really bad, dude. Hate to break it to you, it's already really bad.
Yeah, if you want to answer the question, I'll let you hang on. If not, no problem. Stand by here. That's an important question people need to ask. Is like, well, when is really bad?
I'm really worried about Dion too.
Well, she's working for the military. I mean,
I know.
Smart.
She sounds like she can handle herself.
I hope so.
All right, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. What does it mean to be really bad? And if it's not really bad yet, what will be? Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. More than 100 people are dead, including 13 American military personnel and dozens of Afghan civilians, after 2 suicide bomb attacks at the Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attacks, which come as the U.S. conducts evacuation flights in preparation to completely end its military presence in Afghanistan after 20 years. President Biden has conceded the U.S. is depending on the Taliban's self-interest alone to get Americans out of Afghanistan and complete the mission there. He also pledged to hunt down the terrorists behind the attack. FSN's Nina Maria Potts has more from Washington.
U.S. President Biden paid tribute to the 12 U.S. servicemen killed in the attack, saying they're part of the bravest, most capable and most selfless military on earth. But he conceded that the U.S. has to rely on the Taliban's self-interest to negotiate the extraction of those left behind.
It's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of mutual self-interest.
It's still unclear what the president plans to do next, amid claims the U.S. will go looking for Americans, Afghans with green cards and those loyal to America who've been stranded. But he defended his decision to pull out despite the costs.
Imagine where we'd be if I had indicated on May the 1st I was not going to renegotiate evacuation date.
Amid warnings more attacks could follow, there's so far no plan to put additional troops on the ground to boost security.
Despite the threat of more attacks, the U.S. Department of Defense says it is continuing to evacuate people from the country. FSN's Nick Harper reports.
At a Pentagon briefing, Marine General Kenneth McKenzie confirmed the news that 12 U.S. servicemen had died in the attack and 15 more were injured. He said ISIS-K, the ISIS affiliate in Afghanistan, was responsible, and he warned that more attacks were expected and could occur at any moment. But he said the U.S. evacuations would continue.
While we're saddened by the loss of life, both U.S. and Afghan, we're continuing to execute the mission. Our mission is to evacuate U.S. citizens, third country nationals, special immigrant visa holders, U.S. Embassy staff, and Afghans at risk.
General McKenzie also said the U.S. had no plans at present to bring more troops to the country to help with the evacuation effort. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has chaired an emergency COBRA meeting to discuss the increasingly dangerous situation in Afghanistan. Despite the explosions, Johnson says the UK's evacuation efforts will go on as the August 31st deadline approaches.
I want to stress that we're going to continue with that operation, and we're now coming towards the end of it, to the very end of it, in any event.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You are invited if you want to join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. 603-283-6160. Last year, we told you about Intercoin, which can help any business and organization launch their own currency or raise money using their own token. Now, Intercoin.org has launched worldwide. If there's a token you want to launch or an app you want to build, go to Intercoin.org, enter your email, and the team will get in touch and learn about your needs. And while you're there, if you want, you can get some Intercoins for yourself. That's Intercoin. We're going to continue with you in the studio. By the way, it's Ian,
Matt,
and Bonnie.
We're going to back to Chris in Oregon. He's understandably frustrated about mask mandates and vaccine mandates, which seem to be coming down left and right in various different places. We've seen, of course, Los Angeles County in California, San Francisco in California, also New Orleans and New York City implementing vaccine mandates for people who want to go out and do anything, basically. If you want to go out to eat, if you want to go out to a concert, if you want to go out to the gym, to a theater, or whatever, they're saying you've got to have the vaccine, or you basically are a second-class citizen, and we're expecting to see that in more cities and more. We haven't seen one statewide anywhere yet, but it's probably only a matter of time, especially as things start to cool down this fall. But Chris is in Oregon, and he says that he's considered, because Matt, you put him to the test. You asked him, are you considering moving to New Hampshire? And Chris said he's been thinking about it and would think about it really seriously if things got too bad. And of course, that led me to the question of, well, what does it look like if it's not bad enough? What does
too bad look like?
Yeah,
my God!
If it's not too bad yet, Chris, what does it look like to you when it is?
I would say if things got to the point where I couldn't go to the grocery store and get food, then that's my breaking point.
You think
I'm out of here.
You think they'd let you freely travel out of Oregon at that point?
I think so.
I think you're rolling the dice at a.
That's optimistic.
Yeah.
Because they might try to say that nobody can travel if it's to the point where nobody who's vaccinated can go to the grocery store, or unvaccinated, can go to the grocery store. That's pretty bad, because in California they're trying to roll out a statewide mandate, and their exemption is churches and grocery stores. So that's like the bottom. That's like, you already can't go anywhere else. Now, if they say you can't go to the grocery store,
why are they going to let you out of the house?
Why are they going to let you out of the house? Or why are they going to let you drive around contagious in their crazy minds,
Yeah.
That's a damn good point.
That's a good point.
Come on, dude. Now, you know what? The time to plant the seed is now.
Yeah.
Jump.
I hear you. One key thing I wanted to mention. So yesterday, the Oregon Employment Department announced that in regard to employers being able to issue vaccine mandates upon their employees, any employee who rejects getting the vaccine mandate and rejects the vaccine and is fired, that they will be ineligible to receive unemployment benefits.
Mm-hmm. Two different classes of people. Yep. Thanks for the call tonight, Chris. I appreciate hearing from you. Thanks for sticking with us there. If you want to join us, you can. The number is 603-283-6160. I mean, it sounds hyperbolic to say, oh, they're going to lock down the streets, you won't be able to leave. But remember, during 2020, everybody talks about how great the state of Florida is. It was the state of Florida that put troopers on the ground blocking people from coming into the state of Florida. So people like to act like Florida's some sort of bastion of freedom, and I'm sorry, I don't buy it. New York City had that as well. They had people blocking the roads. They actually had roadblocks.
Canada had police going around with their sirens on at night to catch people leaving their houses.
Yep, they sure did.
Montreal.
Vermont had dump trucks parked at all the bridges. They could pull those dump trucks right across the roadway and block a bridge.
Sure.
And you know what state didn't have all that crap?
New Hampshire. Now, look, New Hampshire wasn't perfect. There's no doubt about that. But that said, we had a resistance here, and there was very little counter to the resistance. So to those of us who went out, and the first night that the governor put his stay-at-home recommendation or whatever it was, order. It was an order, but it kind of read as a recommendation if you actually read the thing, because there were some loopholes in there. And, of course, most people didn't read it. They just took what the mainstream media said and said, we have to stay at home. The media said, the governor said. So they didn't actually read the order. But and regardless of what the order would have said, we would have gone out and done this anyway.
Absolutely.
But we went out and we threw a party on Central Square here in downtown New Hampshire, and we did it for 36 weeks in a row. We only quit because it got too damn cold at some point. But by that time, I think they'd rescinded the stay-at-home order anyway. And we brought it back this year, so it's actually still going. I can't attend because my federal handler won't let me out at night, apparently. But
because you're extra dangerous at night.
Yeah, you guys have been going on same place, same time, Friday nights at midnight, basically, turning into Saturday morning, and people hang out and do a little drinking maybe, and hang out and
Maybe he's
smoking.
just protecting you because coronavirus is extra contagious at night.
I don't know. He still hasn't even answered my question because I've asked him on more than one occasion, because I've asked to go, because I have to request from him when I want to go shopping or go out for a walk or something like that. And I've asked him to go to the nightcaps, and he has refused. And then I will ask him, I say, well, am I allowed to go out at night? Is this a curfew thing? Because there's nothing wrong with me. You won't say no to me walking to the park during the daytime. So why am I being denied this? And he never really gives me an answer. He
doesn't know. It's arbitrary.
Yeah, it really is.
He just doesn't feel he has to tell you a reason.
Well, he doesn't. He definitely doesn't. So anyway, 603-283-6160. That's our number here. What makes you think they're not going to lock down the roads? Look at what's happening in Sydney. I think you make the best point here, Bonnie. Look at Sydney, Australia right now. It is a total lockdown. All businesses are closed with the exception of grocery stores, basically. There's very few exceptions in New South Wales, and that's the state where Sydney is. And you can't leave. And if they catch you out on the roads without, if you are a certain distance away from your home and you are, there's like a grocery store that's closer to your home than you are, you're in trouble. They're going to find you and possibly lock you in a cage.
Early on I said what we got to do as fast as possible is come up with a way to make money on masks. We'll make the most ridiculous mask and we'll claim that it doesn't, we missed the boat on that because that got done by a ton of people. But now what we should do, we should come up with this, an inflatable bubble that goes around your car. So you can drive around in an inflatable bubble car and you'll be protected from COVID-19.
If only it would protect me from the cops.
That would be great.
I said we had special news out of New South Wales. So since we're talking about Australia, here's the news from amp.9news.com.au. New South Wales residents can look forward to a slight relaxation of lockdown rules next month. It's being advertised by the government there as New Freedoms.
Oh my God.
Just dropped.
It's a two-edged sword for the regions. Premier Gladys Berejiklian said the vaccination milestone of 6 million reached this week would allow for a small renewal in freedoms for residents with the jab. Here's what you need to know. What's changing? From September 13th, households living in the New South Wales government's LGAs of concern. These are local government administration or local government areas. It's basically suburbs, I think, from what I understand. Of concern will be allowed to spend an additional hour of recreation outdoors.
Are you serious? This is literally a prison.
This is the
only
new
a 22-hour lockdown.
Yes, that's correct. So yeah, this is on top of the already permitted hour of exercise. So this means that now households will be able to visit a park. I'm serious. This is not the Onion. This is not Babylon Bee.
Once a prison island, always a prison island.
This is really what's happening there. However, people must take this hour within the current and ongoing curfew hours, which will continue. So you'll still be locked down. You will still have a curfew. But now you can have, if you are vaccinated, you can have an extra hour out to go to the park. There's more. You can share your thoughts here with us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And don't say it can't happen here.
Enjoy those extra hours out, even though you took years off your life, possibly, taking this vaccine.
603-283-6160 allows you to join us and bring up what you want. This is Free Talk Live. More freedoms coming up.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
On March 16th this year, government task forces violently raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested. 4 were released on bail conditions, but Ian Freeman was held hostage for 69 days. Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, remains captive. We've consulted attorneys who say no crime even appears to have been committed. But that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, resulting in a violation of our and your First Amendment rights. You can visit thecrypto6.com to help, but as importantly, contact other media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for cryptocurrency use well into your future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. The number, if you want to join in, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We got another big freedom to announce coming soon to New South Wales. Yeah, buddy.
It's a freedom fest over there.
Yeah, not only are you going to be able to get an extra hour outside of your house if you've got the vaccine. Those of you without a vaccine, sorry, you're on total lockdown. But you'll be on less than total lockdown because you'll get a second hour.
You just have
Lord
to
be praised.
You just have to give up your bodily autonomy to the government for an extra hour of freedom.
Well, it's not real freedom because you still have to stay within a certain radius of your home. You can't go too far out, and you can't go out after dark. So you'll still go out when they allow you to go out, and you'll go where they allow you to go, and you'll go with who they allow you to go. That's the other part we're going to get to here, because who can you go see? If you can go out, can you go see another person while you're doing it? 603-283-6160. But first, we go to your calls. Tom is on the line in New Hampshire. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Tom.
Good evening. I came across an interesting news story
It's on NBC News. U.S. veterans try to rescue Afghan interpreters. And these are veterans who still have, they knew the interpreters from their unit. They know each other from the unit from back when they were in service.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to get these guys safely from home to the airport so they can get out of Afghanistan.
Hold on. Let me see if I can understand what you're saying. You're saying the veterans they're not active duty. They're veterans. They're veterans, traveled to Afghanistan?
They're in the United States. They're veterans of the war in Afghanistan,
Mm-hmm.
and they're living in the United States. And, they still keep in touch with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And they get the call from an interpreter who needs to get out. And they're trying to tell these guys how to get out and all the tricks, everything they know about how to get around there.
So they're not
But
actually
then-
traveling to Afghanistan and providing them with a convoy or
Yeah,
something
they're not doing
like
like
that.
exfil or anything like that. They're not leaving.
What I'm getting at here is at one point, the interpreter arrives at the gate of the airport and is showing his cell phone to one of the Marines guarding the gates so that these veterans can explain to the Marine, you got to let them in. They're our guys. These are interpreters who've been helping the United States all these years. When I say our guys, that's what the Marines are calling them, of course, and they're not mine. But and the Marine says, I understand, but I can't. I've got orders. Now, that
and now
is
they're
a
probably extra paranoid now because allegedly ISIS has suicide bombed the Kabul airport. And that apparently just happened within the last 24 hours. So, they're extra paranoid now.
CIA.
Now, let me point out that if they have orders not to let these people into the airport, that is on President Biden, the commander-in-chief of the land and naval forces. That Marine got that order from further up the chain of command that the buck stops at the White House at the desk of the Oval Office. And they have orders. This contradicts the story that the problem is getting these people through all these Taliban checkpoints. No, the interpreters are making them through those checkpoints and getting to the gate of the airport, and they're being turned away by United States bureaucrats. And when they get left behind and they get murdered by the Taliban, well, hey, that's just like the people who were left behind in Germany and in Europe during the Second World War who were trying to escape to the United States and got turned away by immigration.
Same old story. Tom, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. The number is 603-283-6160. Different decade, same story.
Yeah, it's not surprising to me. The government is already throwing these people under the bus. These people agreed to work with the U.S. government, even though they're from Afghanistan, because they didn't want to be murdered by the Taliban or whatever it is. They wanted to make more money. Yeah, whatever it was. Now the government pulled out. They said, "See ya, everybody that did our work for us and did our bidding for us."
The government ditched a whole bunch of U.S. citizens over there.
They
They're
did.
definitely going to ditch Afghani
It's just really
interpreters.
It's not surprising.
Not at all. Number 603-283-6160. So again, looking at the new freedoms that they're announcing, and this is the way they are packaging this, by the way, and announcing it like it's exciting. It's, you can do all these things again that you couldn't do before. And, well, by all these things, we really just mean going outside for an extra hour a day. That's what they've announced according to 9 News over in Australia. This is New South Wales. That's the state that has Sydney in it, where they've been on tremendously restrictive lockdown, probably one of the most lockdown peoples of the entire planet at the moment. And so they're announcing that starting September 13th, because they've reached some arbitrary number of 6 million people that have been vaccinated, that those households where people have been fully vaccinated, that they will be allowed out for an extra hour of recreation outdoors on top of the already permitted hour of exercise. But that's not all, folks. You get a bonus. You get to actually meet with up to 5 whole people if you go outdoors. You can't meet them indoors.
And there are only 5 people that are already in your approved bubble, right? I'm sure.
It's not clear on that. It does say that the 5 may be from different households, but they have to adhere to the LGA 5-kilometer radius rule. So if you've got a buddy that's more than 5 kilometers away, sorry, you can't meet with him.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. you will be allowed only to gather outdoors as long as all adults are fully vaccinated. So you cannot meet inside. You have to be outdoors, and I don't know how cold it gets there in New South Wales, Sydney, but it is wintertime.
It's winter, yeah.
There right now.
I've seen like a lot of pictures of them wearing, flannel shirts and, long sleeve shirts and long pants and things.
In order to take advantage of the new freedoms, people will need to demonstrate proof of vaccination, which means that you better have your QR code or your little MediPass or whatever it is they're mandating over there, or else you're going to be arrested or something bad will happen to you. Other rules, including mask wearing, social distancing, and no visits to households, will remain in place. So those are the two big freedoms they're giving you. You get to go out for an extra hour a day.
How are people making a living?
Everything's shut down. They're not.
Do you own a house if the government can tell you you're not allowed to invite your friends over?
Wait, what now?
Do you really own a house?
Oh, of course not.
Yeah, if the government tells you.
Can tell you who you can bring in.
Yeah.
So part of the roadmap when the following targets are hit, there will be new freedom. So once they hit 70% full vaccination, a, quote, range of family, industry, community, and economic restrictions will be lifted for those who are vaccinated. And once they hit 80% full vaccination, further easing of restrictions on industry, community, and the economy. Ms. Berekjian said businesses and industry need to prepare for a 70% vaccination level throughout the state. That's when things will start to open up, she said. She said businesses should once more prepare a COVID safety plan, including QR code check-ins.
Gross.
Yes. So what you will do if you don't have a vaccine, how you will be restricted there, it looks like it's going to be pretty severe. It doesn't sound like you're going to be able to leave your home. It doesn't sound like you're going to be able to go out for anything whatsoever. And that's only once they hit 70%. Until they hit 70% full vaccination, this lockdown's staying in place.
And they can lie about that number all they want.
Sure.
They can keep it at 70% as long as they want, or 65 or whatever.
Yep. And, of course, what does it mean to be fully vaccinated? Does that mean just having 2 shots, or does it mean having all 3 or 4 when the 4th one comes out? So how do you do that? If you haven't gotten the first shot, is it only if you got the last 2 shots? So, if you never got the first shot, can you get shots 2 and 3 and be considered fully vaccinated? How does that work exactly?
Tough call.
Or do you have to just go and get all 3 shots?
Can you get all 3 different manufacturers like Mark?
Get a little cocktail going on, the vaccine cocktail.
Candy
Mark
flipping.
got one from each?
Well,
no, he got 2.
He got Johnson & Johnson and Moderna, I think.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to have had a shot recently enough to be allowed to go on a cruise. So he got one, and then he was like, oh crap, I was like 4 days off or something. I got to get another one. So we just went and got a different brand.
If smug eye rolling could make a noise, I would have just blown everybody's eardrums out.
So that's the latest from New South Wales. But hey, that's not all the news, because it's not all coming out of Australia, folks. We've also got old Mayor Bill de Blasio. He's got to weigh in on getting vaccines, making them mandatory, and specifically forcing them on children.
Look, human beings do well when they have carrot and stick. So a mandate helps people to realize it's time. FDA final approval on Pfizer said it's time. Now, the Biden administration could do something else that would really help us all move forward, speed the approval of the vaccine for the 5 to 11-year-olds. It's time for that. Look, if we can get that last piece done, because
a carrot on a stick is not a gun to the back.
No, he said a carrot and a stick. Stick meaning we beat you.
The carrot is the reward, the stick is the punishment.
Yeah, the carrot is go do what we say. We'll give you a we'll give you a Krispy Kreme donut and a beer or a bag of weed or whatever it is they're giving away. We'll continue. He's got more to say, and you can share your thoughts as well. Hour 3 is next. It's Free Talk Live.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. More than 100 people are dead, including 13 American military personnel and dozens of Afghan civilians, after 2 suicide bomb attacks at the Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul. The militant group ISIS-K has claimed responsibility for the attacks, which come as the U.S. conducts evacuation flights in preparation to completely end its military presence there after 20 years. The U.S. military casualties were the first in Afghanistan since February of last year, and it was the deadliest attack on U.S. forces in the country in over a decade. U.S. President Joe Biden has vowed to hunt down the terrorists responsible.
We will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
Biden has conceded that the U.S. is depending on the Taliban's self-interest alone to get Americans out of the country and complete the mission there. FSN's Nina Maria Potts has more from Washington.
U.S. President Biden paid tribute to the U.S. servicemen killed in the attack, saying they're part of the bravest, most capable and most selfless military on earth. But he conceded that the U.S. has to rely on the Taliban's self-interest to negotiate the extraction of those left behind.
It's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of mutual self-interest.
It's still unclear what the president plans to do next, amid claims the U.S. will go looking for Americans, Afghans with green cards and those loyal to America who've been stranded. But he defended his decision to pull out despite the costs.
Imagine where we'd be if I had indicated on May the 1st I was not going to renegotiate evacuation date.
Amid warnings more attacks could follow, there's so far no plan to put additional troops on the ground to boost security.
The U.S. Department of Defense says it is continuing to evacuate people from the country. FSN's Nick Harper reports.
At a Pentagon briefing, Marine General Kenneth McKenzie said ISIS-K, the ISIS affiliate in Afghanistan, was responsible, and he warned that more attacks were expected and could occur at any moment. But he said the U.S. evacuations would continue.
While we're saddened by the loss of life, both U.S. and Afghan, we're continuing to execute the mission. Our mission is to evacuate U.S. citizens, third country nationals, special immigrant visa holders, U.S. Embassy staff, and Afghans at risk.
General McKenzie also said the U.S. had no plans at present to bring more troops to the country to help with the evacuation effort.
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says that it won't be possible to evacuate all the Afghans who want to leave the country before the military withdrawal on August 31st.
It is not going to be possible for every single Afghan, millions potentially, who want to leave Afghanistan to be evacuated.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the enormously difficult calculations that US allies must make in light of President Biden's decision to withdraw American troops from Kabul airport next Tuesday. His international partners have to decide whether there is any prospect of them being able to keep their own troops in Afghanistan, absent the vital air cover and military protection that the US has traditionally provided. Colonel Richard Kemp is the former commander of British forces in Afghanistan. He is evidently frustrated by the decision today's commanders have to make.
If we don't have the ability to hold on to an airport, a relatively small airport, then I'm not quite sure what all our defence spending is for. But on the other hand, there are other things to balance as well as just forces and political will, one of which is the potentially immense risks to those people we're trying to get out. And if we manage, due to remaining there after the deadline, and have clashes with the Taliban, and the Taliban start killing the people we're trying to get out, then of course that is the opposite to what we're trying to achieve.
As things stand, Britain and France are now beginning to wind up their evacuation efforts at Kabul airport, both countries still urging President Biden to extend the US operation there. But the British Defence Secretary is now telling British citizens who get left behind to try and make their own way to one of Afghanistan's international borders. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. More than 100 people are dead, including 13 American military personnel and dozens of Afghan civilians after 2 suicide attacks in Afghanistan. President Biden defends his decision to set an exit deadline and pledges to hunt down the terrorists behind the attack. And the White House says it won't be possible to complete the evacuation of Afghans before the end of the month. That is the latest feature story news. Ira Spitzer reporting.
Japan grants suffrage to female robots. And a hypochondriac maple tree is always convinced it has Asian longhorn beetles. The following 2 statements are true. The previous statement is false, and this is the Onion Week in Review. This week, Americans nationwide were stunned to hear horrific allegations on Wall Street revealing that numerous junior bankers have been forced to survive on a mere $6,800 per week. The findings, which implicate numerous high-profile financial institutions such as Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, and Citibank, suggest that hundreds of first-year bankers are constantly deprived of basic necessities, including penthouse apartments overlooking Central Park and regular company-financed vacations to the French Riviera.
Many of these bankers are 23 or 24 years old and don't even have access to an expense account of over $50,000 a year. Not only that, but some of them are making as little as 20 times minimum wage. I mean, this is truly disgraceful.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, kicking off the 3rd hour of the program. The number here is 603-283-6160. If you want to join us, more from Mayor Bill de Blasio on his statement regarding forced vaccinations, mandatory vaccinations, especially for children. He's really interested, it seems, in having 5 to 11-year-old children mandated to get the vaccine, even though children, of course, are the most likely to easily defeat COVID should they contract it. But we will all of that doesn't matter. But mandates, obedience, that's what matters. With you tonight, it's Ian,
Matt,
and Bonnie.
We're going to go to your phone calls and thoughts first, and then I'll play more of this interview with Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York City, interviewed on MSNBC recently about vaccine mandates. But first, Wild Child is on the line here. Where are you calling from?
Missouri.
And you're on the air. Go ahead.
Okay, back in 1998, before there were cell phones or the internet for the average Joe or Joe, it's like I infiltrated the Communist Party of the United States of America.
Really?
That's fun.
So, yeah, I became a member of the CP of USA. And
Okay.
it's like I found out that, firstly, yeah, they spew out that Marxian twaddle, but simultaneously they don't live like they want everyone else to live.
Of course not.
Oh, they're hypocrites.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I lived out in the Metro Detroit area, that's in Michigan, And the communists there, the locals, they grouped you out together. They called it a club, or at least they did 24 years ago or so. And they all of them, except I was the only one that rented my housing. At that point in time, I had divorced my husband, and I was the only one that I had to rent because he owned his house and he wasn't giving me half. But I was the only renter. They all owned their houses, and their houses were these big, beautiful mansions out in what they call the exurbs, in the wealthier suburbs.
And where was this again that you infiltrated them?
The Communist Party of the United States of America.
But where were you?
Michigan?
I was in the Metro Detroit area
Detroit,
in Michigan.
So where do you think their money came from?
I guess it came from their jobs and stuff. I have no idea, but the thing is, they owned their property.
So these were like upper crust people. These weren't like the young 20-somethings that were fresh out of college.
These were really old, phospholytic, old. Most of them were, not all of them. I was in my early 40s at the time, but most of them were like in their 80s and 90s. They had been there a while,
Interesting. Wild Child, anything else you want to share about your experience? Go ahead.
Yeah, they were hypocrites. It wasn't about, like, Marx talks about the petty bourgeois and scapegoats the upper classes for the problems of the proletariat, while the commies in this country at that point in time, like now, were anti-white racists and scapegoated white people for all the problems of everyone else. But simultaneously, they were all pretty much white, and they were very wealthy, and they did not rent. They owned everything, and they had these big lavish houses, lived in the lap of luxury.
Let me guess, they weren't taking a bunch of their money and spending it on local hungry people. They weren't doing,
oh, hell no,
big giveaways of cash or sandwiches or anything like that.
No, hell, they didn't do that.
That's interesting.
There were a bunch of hypocrites, just like like Christians or all other religions are today. They're pretty much, do as I say, not as I do, hypocrites.
Thank you, Wild Child, for your call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. The number here is 603-283-6160. I mean, she's not wrong.
Sounds like phony is like Mark David Chapman would say.
The murderer of
John Lennon.
John Lennon.
Called him a phony because he was living like a lavish life
in like a penthouse apartment or whatever.
After all his
they had servants.
All right, so back to another phony, another hypocrite, Bill de Blasio, another thug.
Also living in New York.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's living large as well. The mayor of New York City. Here's what he had to say. I'm just going to recap this. It's a short clip, so I'm going to play the whole thing for those of you just tuning in here.
Look, human beings do well when they have carrot and stick. So a mandate helps people to realize it's time. FDA final approval on
his language. Mandates help. They help you realize things.
It's time.
It's time to obey.
You've been considering taking this vaccine and just waiting till it was time, and now the government is showing you that it is time.
Oh, I got it. Jumped back here for a second. Here it
realize it's time. FDA final approval on Pfizer said it's time. Now, the Biden administration could do something else that would really help us all move forward. Speed the approval of the vaccine for the 5 to 11-year-olds. It's time for that. Look,
why is that going to help us all move forward exactly?
No, 5 to 11-year-olds don't die of coronavirus.
No, they don't. And if everybody else has gotten the vaccine, because the old excuse was, oh, well, you got to keep the kids away from the grandparents, right? Because, the grandparents are the ones that are vulnerable. Well, if the vaccine works, then why would it matter whether or not the kids have the vaccine? And if you're that concerned, just keep grandma away from the kids still. But either way, if grandma's got the vaccine and the vaccine works, then why can't she hug her grandkids whether or not they've got the vaccine?
Well, Ian, the government said when I count to 3, you better get your vaccine. And they already counted to 3, so now it's time.
We can get that last piece done. Because right now we can vaccinate kids 12 and up. And we're having a lot of success in New York City getting that done. But we need that last piece. And we need every child in America back in school. So I know Joe Biden cares.
Because you got to keep indoctrinating
them. Got to keep them brainwashed.
Yeah.
To his great credit, I know the team's working nonstop, but they've got to make this a central priority. Get that vaccine ready for the 5 to 11-year-olds. And then there's not even a question anymore about our schools. Everyone in the school building at that point could be vaccinated, should be vaccinated.
It's creepy, isn't it?
It's extremely creepy.
Like, this guy's obsessed.
He's hell-bent on being a child abuser.
Yeah.
Mass child abuser. Yeah. Millions of kids he's talking about.
He's obsessed with injecting children with an experimental vaccine that modifies their DNA.
This is not hyperbole.
No.
This is real.
That's a real interview.
Well, if you Google, is the COVID-19 vaccine experimental, fact checkers will come up and explain to you that it's not experimental. And then when you click on the links that they give you, they're just a bunch of mumbo jumbo that literally doesn't say anything. It says, yeah, animal testing was done. For how long? How does that make it not experimental? So, okay, you did some experiments.
Oh, these fact check sites are awful. They're just straight up propaganda. And Google's part of this, right? So
is Facebook, so is YouTube, all of them.
The people who Google, is the COVID-19 vaccine experimental because they've heard someone they don't like say it, and now they want to give them proof that it's not experimental, will just say, oh, look, there's this link.
Yeah, here's a link to the New York Times.
Here's a link to what the CDC said, and not even be able to read this crap that pops up. This paperwork or whatever that pops up.
Didn't somebody call the other night about some alternatives to Google, like a search.brave.com, I think I heard about?
Yeah, I can't remember it now.
And then there were a couple of other ones as well. What is the most freedom-friendly search engine out there at the moment? If you know the answer, feel free to give us a call and let us know. Our number is 603-283-6160. But this guy, this Bill de Blasio, who, he knows that people pay attention to New York City. He knows that people watch what they do, the other government people, government goons in other places all around the country. As New York City goes, so goes a lot of other places. And they were the first to have the vaccine mandate to go and do things indoors. They were the first. That is, by the way, still rolling out. That the enforcement of that is not starting until, I believe, mid-September. I think it's like September 16th or something like that. So right now, they're not sending the ticketing agents around. They're not making arrests yet of restaurateurs or whoever else, gym owners that might balk and might refuse to enforce this. And there are some independent restaurateurs there who are suing the city over this. So again, whether you're in New York City or whether you're anywhere and you want to talk about this or whatever happens to be on your mind, you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. But you know what? Let's change things up. There's always crazy news about COVID, but there's other things worth talking about in the world. And I got some crypto news coming up here for you.
Oh, goody.
And you can share your thoughts with us. It's Free Talk Live.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. UCI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
A congressman recently revealed that legislation totaling 2,900 pages and involving more than $1 trillion was available to members of Congress for less than 48 hours to study and consider. That's over 60 pages of legislation per hour. Do you think anyone read the entire bill? I'm Jim Babka with DownsizeDC.org. Consider a proposal buried in a 3,200-page, $388 billion bill, which would have empowered committee chairmen or their agents to examine Americans' tax returns. When this horrible provision came to light, no one claimed to know how it got into the bill. One congressman questioned said, "I didn't write it, I didn't approve it, I wasn't even consulted." If your attorney represented you this way, he might be disbarred. But this is how Congress represents you every day. That's why DownsizeDC.org has created the Read the Bills Act. You can force Congress to read their bills before they pass them at DownsizeDC.org.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. You may dial in here and join us. Bring up what you want. Busy night here on the phones, so thanks to everybody participating with the show. It's always more fun, I think, for us to do shows where we get to talk to you. The number is 603-283-6160. And with you tonight, it's Ian,
Matt,
and Bonnie.
We'll continue with some different news, because there's always crazy corona news in the story, in the news out there. But what else is happening in the world? Well, cryptocurrency has tended to be on the rise over time, and one country, El Salvador, has legalized Bitcoin as legal tender.
That's pretty impressive.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that because it's getting closer to being go time for that whole plot.
They kind of mandated Bitcoin, right?
It sounded like it. Now they're walking that back.
That's
so
cool.
We'll talk about that coming up here. But first, we go to your phone calls and thoughts. Tyler is on the line, former host here on Free Talk Live. Tyler is calling from New Hampshire over in Rochester. Hey there.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Hey, Matt. Hey, Bonnie.
Hey, Tyler.
Hi.
What's on your mind, dude?
Hey, I just wanted to call. I saw your guys' newspaper article or in the Intelligencer, the New York magazine.
Yeah.
Caught that today and made me think of you guys, so I'm watching the show.
Thanks.
Wanted to change the subject a little bit because we all know COVID, information and news is always getting you down. But there is one white pilling article that I read recently. This company called Rare Breed makes a trigger called the FRT-15 trigger. You guys heard of that yet?
Yes.
No, I have not. And first, tell me what a white pill is.
So a white pill is just good news, as opposed to black pilling. Red pilling is waking up.
Okay.
Blue pilling is staying inside the rabbit hole. Black pilling's sad. White pilling's good.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
So this is you're going to tell me good news about this trigger, this rare breed trigger. Let's explain, Tyler, quickly what the rare breed trigger is and what's going on around it.
Okay, so what the rare breed trigger is a drop-in trigger you can put in your AR-15, and what it is it's a forced reset trigger. So for a semi-automatic rifle, what you usually do is when you pull the trigger, it fires a round. You have to release your finger from the trigger for it to reset so you can fire another round. Well, this trigger does that part for you. So if you hold the trigger down, it'll push your finger forward to reset it. And as long as you're holding your finger against it, it's going to continue to fire a round.
So this is kind of like a bump stock, but not a bump stock.
Think of it like a bump trigger. Yeah, exactly. So the ATF decided to do a report, and according to sources, the report that they didn't even actually look at the trigger itself, but they saw that you can get firing rates of like 600 to 700 rounds per minute.
Damn.
Which is M16 or higher, you know.
Yeah, which is, it gets it up there. And so immediately they were like, well, of course this is a machine gun, even though it doesn't meet the definition of a machine gun, but we say it is. So they sent Rare Breed a letter, a cease and desist, and they said, you can't sell any more of these, and you have to account for all the ones you sold because technically you sold machine guns. Well, the good news is Rare Breed said, not now, Chief, I'm in the zone, and they kept making them.
They kept making them and kept selling them.
And kept selling them. They're going to continue to do so, and they're suing the ATF. They want to take the ATF to court because at the end of the day, they're going to have to convince a jury that this is a machine gun, and it doesn't meet the definition of a machine gun at all.
The ATF's definition of a machine gun is not nearly met.
So is it illegal to sell a machine gun in America?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Everywhere in America?
Oh, yes.
That's stupid.
You can buy a machine gun, but you have to have a tax stamp for it, and you have to
what's that cost?
The tax stamp's $200. You're gonna wait a year on your background check, and it's gonna cost you about $20,000 to actually afford the cheapest M16 beater that's out there. So this is you cannot buy any machine gun in America that was made after 1986.
So these triggers you can take and put into, I presume, a variety of different semi-automatic rifles, like AK-47.
No, just an AR-15.
Just the AR-15.
Yeah, just the AR-15. And the reason that Rare Breed thinks that they're going to win this suit is because the ATF hasn't been able to prosecute anyone for having a bump stock. And the reason for that is they tried to persecute one person for having it, and then when they were getting ready to go to court over it, they realized really quickly that they're not going to be able to meet their own definition of a machine gun, so they dropped the charges. So anyone that has a bump stock out there hasn't been persecuted for having one. And, they realized, hey, we're just going to use their own rules against them.
Trump,
let's see where this goes.
When Trump, quote unquote, banned bump stocks, did he ban the possession or just the sale of bump stocks?
That's a great question. I mean, I would assume that because the bump stock was classified as a machine gun, meaning if you already owned one and you didn't have a tax stamp for it, you're in illegal possession of a machine gun.
I see.
But again, they haven't prosecuted anyone for that.
It's interesting.
Yeah. It is.
So this company is called Rare Breed. Now they're still selling these triggers.
They're absolutely heroic.
Are they saying anything on their website like, we're not going to keep your information? Like, if you buy this from us, we'll delete your address or anything? Is there any kind of statement like that, or are they still collecting
I haven't heard
names?
anything like that. The thing is they're not selling them directly. Their distributor is Big Daddy Unlimited, which is a firearms distributor online. I went ahead and looked these up because as soon as I found that out, I was like, well, hey, I kind of want one. But there's so many people that want one that they're back ordered over a year. So yeah.
There was a split second there where you could buy one because people wanted to offload them quickly. They didn't want to be associated with them, so you could get them on
secondhand.
Yeah, secondhand. People were like, I want this gone.
Nice. Tyler, anything else you want to share?
No, just that I miss you guys. I'm glad to see you
too,
got
dude.
back to doing what you do best, Ian. And
Thanks,
hopefully I got to come back to Keene soon. I got some stuff left at the old house, so maybe I'll swing by and say hi.
Cool. Look forward to it. Thanks, brother.
All right, take it easy.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the call tonight. Thanks for the update. 603-283-6160. There's been some surprisingly good court decisions recently for gun rights.
Yeah. All this stuff we're going through right now kind of overshadows all that stuff, but there's one activist judge out in California who's just decimating a lot of supposed
state laws, right?
Yes, state laws. So been
California's still a terrible place to live.
Yeah, and on the circuit level too, though, is that the Ninth Circuit's been pretty fresh.
Right.
Like, wow, what's it for somebody like me who pays attention to that stuff? I'm like, what's going on out there?
So if you want to weigh in, you're welcome to 603-283-6160. And of course, that's another reason why New Hampshire just needs to leave the United States.
Absolutely.
There's been talk recently amongst state representatives about declaring independence from the United States. And when Mike Sylvia, who's one of the state reps, he's an A-plus rep, 100% liberty rep. This guy is the bona fide real deal, freedom-friendly guy. When he goes through his list of reasons why New Hampshire ought to leave, gun rights is right there toward the top of the list. Because all these federal rules get in the way of people's freedoms to bear whatever arms they want to.
And you have to really take even if you're not a gun person, you have to really put it into perspective in terms of tactics. If someone's trying to disarm you, why? There's only one reason anybody would ever really want to disarm you.
Especially when they're armed.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when they're armed.
Yeah, they're not disarming, that's for sure.
No.
603-283-6160. You can join us. El Salvador getting ready to have Bitcoin become legal tender. What does that mean?
So interesting.
Let's talk about it coming up. This is Free Talk Live.
Carl Wattner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Wattner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. More than 100 people are dead, including 13 American military personnel and dozens of Afghan civilians, after 2 suicide bomb attacks at the Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attacks, which come as the U.S. conducts evacuation flights in preparation to completely end its military presence in Afghanistan after 20 years. President Biden has conceded the U.S. is depending on the Taliban's self-interest alone to get Americans out of Afghanistan and complete the mission there. He also pledged to hunt down the terrorists behind the attack. FSN's Nina Maria Potts has more from Washington.
U.S. President Biden paid tribute to the 12 U.S. servicemen killed in the attack, saying they're part of the bravest, most capable and most selfless military on earth. But he conceded that the U.S. has to rely on the Taliban's self-interest to negotiate the extraction of those left behind.
It's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of mutual self-interest.
It's still unclear what the president plans to do next, amid claims the U.S. will go looking for Americans, Afghans with green cards and those loyal to America who've been stranded. But he defended his decision to pull out despite the costs.
Imagine where we'd be if I had indicated on May the 1st I was not going to renegotiate evacuation date.
Amid warnings more attacks could follow, there's so far no plan to put additional troops on the ground to boost security.
Despite the threat of more attacks, the U.S. Department of Defense says it is continuing to evacuate people from the country. FSN's Nick Harper reports.
At a Pentagon briefing, Marine General Kenneth McKenzie confirmed the news that 12 US servicemen had died in the attack and 15 more were injured. He said ISIS-K, the ISIS affiliate in Afghanistan, was responsible, and he warned that more attacks were expected and could occur at any moment. But he said the U.S. evacuations would continue.
While we're saddened by the loss of life, both U.S. and Afghan, we're continuing to execute the mission. Our mission is to evacuate U.S. citizens, third country nationals, special immigrant visa holders, U.S. Embassy staff, and Afghans at risk.
General McKenzie also said the U.S. had no plans at present to bring more troops to the country to help with the evacuation effort. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has chaired an emergency COBRA meeting to discuss the increasingly dangerous situation in Afghanistan. Despite the explosions, Johnson says the UK's evacuation efforts will go on as the August 31st deadline approaches.
I want to stress that we're going to continue with that operation,
and we're now coming towards the end of it, to the very end of it, in any event.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Yep, it's Free Talk Live. The number, if you want to join us here, it's 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Of course, you can bring up whatever's on your mind. Coming up, El Salvador to be the first country on the planet, and I'm going to guess not the last country on the planet to legalize Bitcoin. And when I say legalize it, I don't mean that it was prohibited. I mean to put it into the system, to legalize, to make it legal as in it is part of the government, part of the system. And we're going to get deeper into this idea here in just a moment. They're going to make it legal tender.
Sounds like for me there's a vacation being planned for El Salvador, if you ask me.
It's interesting. There's some ups, there's some downs to this, and the Wall Street Journal's covering the story that they're about ready to roll this thing out officially here in a short bit. But first, we're going to go to your calls and thoughts. Riley is on the line. Riley from Utah, who is our Riley. He's the guy that does the Daily Digest.
Riley. How you doing, Riley?
Every single night.
I'm doing fantastic.
Hey, dude. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, Riley.
Thank you. I'm actually going to be coming back to New Hampshire September 28th through October 9th. So.
Can't wait.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, I want to talk about this whole rhetoric surrounding masks and vaccines and how a lot of people on the left claim it's ableist to not get vaccinated or wear a mask. And yet here we have people who have suffered trauma from abuse or whatever who maybe can't wear a mask because it's highly triggering. Or then you have the people who can't get vaccinated for whatever reason. And these leftists really want to claim the idea that it's ableist to not get masks, to wear masks or be vaccinated. And to me, it's really frustrating as someone who has a quote-unquote disability, even though I don't consider blindness to be a disability. It's really frustrating to hear these people talk about how ableist it is to not be masked or vaccinated.
So an ableist is somebody who is saying that someone has an ability that others don't, right? Like, so define this for me.
I really don't know what that term exactly means. I just have heard it used. I mean, I'm guessing ableist. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Oh, it's like being racist against somebody for their race. It's being discriminatory against somebody for their abilities. So, like, if somebody just didn't want to cater, like, make a restaurant that could have people come in with wheelchairs, like, they could be called ableist.
Discrimination against disabled people, according to dictionary.com. So, yeah, Bonnie, you nailed it. But so they're saying that it's ableism to not get a vaccine?
Yes, that's what I've heard.
That's stupid. Like something.
How?
I don't know, and that's really concerning. I guess the assumption is that if you don't get a vaccine, you're going to get people sick.
It still doesn't really make sense. Well,
it doesn't.
Look at what we're working with here, though. That's Riley's point. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
This is, oh, my God.
Last night, Nikki said something that kind of has something to do with this. She said people call her, like, rude or say she's selfish for not wanting to take the vaccine or wear a mask. And she said that's so ridiculous considering the fact that she was a nurse working with COVID-positive patients in the early days of
zero.
Every day.
In the early days of COVID,
sure.
where it was actually really scary to most people because we didn't know what this thing was. And she was fine. So she learned from that, with her personal experience, is making a personal choice not to take the vaccine, doesn't want to wear masks, and people call her selfish for that.
The thing is, what's selfish is people who want to force other people to take the same medicine that they do so they can feel safe.
Right.
That's selfishness.
Oh, absolutely. This whole COVID thing is a fear-based experience for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And when they respond in a fear-based way, they're afraid. They want to get in control of others so they feel safe. Well, you have to let go of your fear. You have to let go of wanting to control people, because when you do, you're going to realize that, hey, this really isn't that bad.
What's it like being, a blind guy? You're there in Utah, which, Bonnie, you actually spent some time living in Utah as well. I mean, are people bewildered when the blind dude isn't even, doing what? Because they figured that you're going to be obedient or whatever. You need your hand held, and you walk into a place without a mask on, and what do they say?
They usually don't say anything about it. I usually just say, I have a medical exemption, and leave it at that.
They leave you alone?
Yeah,
Okay.
they do.
That's good to know.
So get myself a cane and some black sunglasses.
It didn't get too bad in Utah, my parents said. Well, at least in Tooele, Utah, they said that they pretty much always went to Walmart without wearing a mask.
No issues.
In Tooele, Utah. Did it get bad where you are, Riley?
So I live in St. George, Utah. It didn't get that bad. We have
College
enough
town.
conservatives here to push things back, but also I've noticed that the dominant religion in Utah, the Mormon Church, has said, hey, we urge our members to get vaccinated. So they're trying to get everyone going along with the narrative, and it's really, really sad that a lot of people in my family got it because, well, the church
said so.
Yep,
wow.
That's sad. Yeah. That's really messed up. That the church does a lot of things I feel like are messed up in Utah, because there's like no separation of church and state. They'll just be like, yeah, vote for Trump or whatever, like just straight up, and they're unashamed about it. But it's really messed up that the church is telling people to get vaccinated, because Mormons will absolutely do what the president pops up, the LDS president pops up on the video cameras and says to do.
Yeah. Well, I can understand, because I have family members that work in the medical field, and I can just understand why they'd want to get vaccinated. I know my mom got vaccinated because she works around older people, and so she got vaccinated to, quote-unquote, protect them. So I don't know. I'm really feeling pressure to get vaccinated, and I don't really want to.
Yeah, anytime I feel pressured for something, it makes me want to do something less.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my attitude.
Thanks, Riley. We'll see you when you get here for your visit come
All
up in September. Thanks for the call tonight. Appreciate it. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And I'm even less interested to do something that the government says, because they are completely untrustworthy. They're liars.
They're murderers.
They're murderers. They are just absolutely corrupt from top to bottom, and why anyone takes them seriously. I mean, obviously you have to take a man seriously if he's going to point a gun at your head and demand things of you, but why anyone believes what they say with so many decades upon decades of evidence after evidence of malfeasance and outright robbery and rape and just destruction of innocent life, why anyone would think these people have your best interest in mind.
That's lunacy.
The exact same thing can be said about the LDS Church as well. Like, it was founded by a liar, like an extreme liar and thief, and they went around murdering
Brigham
people.
Young, was that the guy?
No, Joseph Smith.
Joseph Smith,
that's right.
Like crazy liar.
Yeah, you should see Joseph Smith's rap sheet in Chenango County, because he's from.
He had to run from your old county in New York, right?
He went to Missouri too, and they banned him from Missouri. And he's just a horrible person that started the LDS Church, and they're all liars and horrible corruption. Yeah,
which is weird, because all the Mormons I've ever known seem so super well-adjusted and nice people with good families. Like, Bonnie's got a look on her face. Maybe I'm wrong.
They're awful. They'll kick you out of their family for being gay.
Well, yeah, there's that.
Like, literally.
What if you drink caffeine? Will they kick you out for that too?
I don't really know if you'll get kicked out for that, but that's
I've seen some dirty looks get tossed around before around caffeine drinking.
But you're not allowed to, right? Like, you're not allowed to.
I don't think that's okay.
Yeah, it's really not okay. It's like, it's bad. They also just like, well, if you move into a town there and you're not a Mormon, they'll go up and be like, hi, I'm your neighbor. What, I forget what they call it. It's some weird word for church. What church do you go to?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be like, if you tell them, oh, I'm not LDS, like, your kids aren't allowed to hang out with their kids.
Damn.
They're like bad. I think they're bad people. Anyways.
The number, if you want to join us here, whether you want to weigh in on Mormons or whatever's on your mind. Hey, I love it when people have their passionate.
Right on.
They've got an opinion. That's what we're here for.
But even more so, the leadership. If they're telling me to get a vaccine, I want to get it even less.
603-283-6160. That's the number here, 603-283-6160. On the other hand, there's a lot of religions that have been really standing up and outstanding and taking a risk and continuing to operate in the face of threats and arrests and things like that. So kudos to those guys.
Ours.
More coming up here. It's Free Talk Live. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The number, if you want to join us in these remaining moments, there's just enough time for you. You can call in at 603-283-6160. We'll get you on the air to talk about what you want. Take control of the airwaves here on Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's Ian, Matt, and Bonnie in with you tonight. Of course, you can join us online anytime at freetalklive.com. don't forget, you can also join our Matrix chat server over at chat.freetalklive.com. Bonnie is one of the newest members of the Matrix server. You can check her out there. And other Free Talk Live listeners and people that don't ever listen to the show just like to talk us frequently. So check that out at chat.freetalklive.com. That's actually where you can go to get the step-by-step instructions on how to sign up and join the Matrix chat server. It can be pretty entertaining, though, can't it, Bonnie?
Yeah, they're pretty funny sometimes.
Yeah, they are.
But they're mean.
Even when they're mean, they can be pretty funny. So just know what you're getting into. Chat.freetalklive.com. We go to your phone calls and thoughts. Phil is on the line in Texas. Phil, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, I'm kind of nervous here. But
okay.
I just wanted to ask how anti-vaxxers, or anti-maskers can market to each other to find each other out and to create a alternate economy.
Well, okay, first I would say I don't describe myself as an anti-vaxxer or an anti-masker, but I am in favor of choice. I think people should be able to make choices about their own body and their own life, and I'm highly skeptical of this particular vaccine, and I'm very skeptical of mask wearing. So, personally, I'm against both of those things, but I don't like being called an anti-this or that. That said, how do we market to one another? Well, it helps if you're physically nearby the people that you agree with and that you actually have a physical community of people. So, Matt, you were talking about this earlier tonight, that people have been moving to New Hampshire, that there's a migration of people who care about liberty and freedom, and a lot of those people, there are a few that have caught the mask madness and they've gone off the reservation, but most of us have stayed pretty true to principle here. And here in New Hampshire, we have something called Market Day, where there literally is a physical meeting in different areas of the state. There's one in Manchester. I think there's one on the Seacoast. I don't know if the North Country is doing theirs actively.
Yeah, they are.
They are? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then Keene, of course, has one as well. So they're all over the place, and they happen monthly, and people come together, and they, set up a card table or whatever, a little, flip table, and then they put their wares out, and they sell it, and they accept crypto and gold and yucky cash or whatever. And so that's one way to do it. Otherwise, you're basically stuck with online if you don't have a physical group. And I know there are the Freedom Cells, which is, from what I can tell, the best way to kind of find people that might be somewhere in your region of Texas or wherever you happen to be. And they're over at freedomcells.org, just to network. You got to network with people. I mean, that's the only answer.
Yeah, and we met a bunch of those Freedom Cell people. Man, that was a good group of people.
Young,
they came up and visited
active,
us here.
Interested.
Oh,
yeah.
man, what a great group. I wish they would all just move. Let's have one giant Freedom Cell.
Yeah, they really should. What do you think, Phil?
I guess we shouldn't be afraid of, telling people, up front that we're not afraid of, of people that don't want to take the vaccine and, people that don't want to, wear a mask. And we just need to, communicate better to our prospective, clients.
Well, the good news is people that wear masks, you already know you don't want to talk to them. So it's kind of like a nice little self-selector.
It's kind of hard because, there are people that will come into the Moose Mart wearing a mask and then, still every now and then, and they'll see that we're not wearing masks and take their mask off. So it's like, do you really want to be wearing that mask? It doesn't seem like it.
Stop kowtowing to everybody. Yeah. Don't wear that stupid mask if you don't want to wear that stupid mask.
Well, and thank you, Phil, for the call tonight. I appreciate it. And consider it. If you're a liberty-loving person, you really got to consider making the move to New Hampshire. I mean, there's just no community like this anywhere. And what you're saying there, Bonnie, is so important, is to, the people with the masks on, they're signaling obedience. But we are signaling something else. We're signaling independence. We're signaling freedom. Mm-hmm. And people feel like, oh, my God, these people aren't doing what they've been told to do. Maybe I can join them. And unfortunately, people, as much as we want them to be leaders, as much as we want them to be independent,
be bold,
people are not generally leaders. People tend to be followers. And I mean, I wish that were different, but it's not. I mean, that's just people. People are followers.
Throughout my whole life, I've just been, I feel like lots of people say this, but I've been kind of just different or whatever and don't really listen to people or whatever it is in that situation.
Oppositional defiance disorder.
And I've noticed that people will copy me, the way I am or whatever. I've noticed that people will, because they're literally doing what they do all the time, being obedient, They see me, they think I'm cool, they start talking like me or whatever. So
And you
make
can
people take control of people's obedience by making them not obey you, but
people just
follow
want to go
you.
along. Yeah, they follow, and you just have to. It's a tough position to be in as an individual. We want everybody to be their own leader.
But I agree with what Bonnie's saying. I mean, ever since I met you, Bonnie, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a half inch shorter than I was.
What? Trying to get shorter?
Whatever it takes.
He's saying he's trying to imitate you.
Oh my goodness.
But simple as being a crosswalk and just crossing. This is one of the best, most common examples you can see of this happening. You go to a crosswalk, there's people standing there waiting. You look around, there's no cars coming.
Go.
So you just go. You don't press the button and wait. You just start walking, and most of the time.
Moo.
Now, this may not be true in New York City or whatever, where people are always crossing because there's so many people and they have sort of the right of way. But in most places, in a lot of cases, they're going to follow you.
I'm still trying to find out if a car will go through a red light with me, because there's like 2 completely useless red lights at on School Street next to the bank, next to people's.
I've
bank
never had
or
it
whatever.
happen. I've gone through a bunch of red lights here in Keene, and I've had similar questions. Will that person,
They usually
follow
stay.
the lead? Yeah,
they usually just move up and then stay stopped.
So another question about will there be other countries following the lead of El Salvador? I'm going to try to sneak this topic in here, the remaining moments. According to the Wall Street Journal, the government of the impoverished Central American nation aims to spend up to $75 million as part of a plan to hand out $30 worth of crypto, specifically Bitcoin, to people who sign up for an e-wallet called Chivo, which stands for cool. That software-based system would allow an estimated 2.5 million Salvadorans to buy goods or pay for services in U.S. dollars or Bitcoin, El Salvador's 2 official currencies as of September 7th. So what's interesting about El Salvador is they don't have a government fiat currency of their own.
It's probably the strongest component of their governance that they have.
It's a smart move in their case. The foray into Bitcoin risks wrecking El Salvador's $26 billion economy. Now, I'm not sure why they're saying that.
It's going to wreck their $26 billion economy. It's going to do wonders for their Bitcoin economy, though.
Their indebted central bank could be forced to spend hard currency reserves to buy Bitcoin if the value of the crypto asset craters and consumers rush to the safety of the dollar. The government can't print its own money. El Salvador ditched the colón in favor of the greenback 2 decades ago and is struggling to earn dollars. So the president says that adopting Bitcoin will help attract foreign investment. He's right about that.
Absolutely.
I'm sure there's a ton of Bitcoiners who are thinking about making the move.
I already want to go on vacation. Do they have
El
reefs?
Salvador.
I want to dive.
I don't know about
go
that.
diving.
So he says it could foster more and cheaper financial services and lower the cost of sending and receiving remittances, all of which is true. Now, the downside to this is Bitcoin isn't really ready for prime time. It's not ready for mass adoption because it hasn't scaled.
Right.
The technology behind Bitcoin has not changed.
It's a Model T on a racetrack.
Well,
in years.
I heard a Bitcoin maximalist on, I think it was Ernie Hancock's show during ForkFest. There was a bunch of Bitcoin maximalists that kept getting interviewed. And I heard him saying he was in El Salvador using the Lightning Network to buy coffees and stuff. What's wrong with that?
The Lightning Network isn't really Bitcoin. It's a
derivative.
It's a system built on top of Bitcoin. So it masquerades as though it's Bitcoin, but it's really a secondary layer that has been built on top of Bitcoin and arguably isn't ready for prime time itself.
And it's also not encrypted, is it?
It's error-prone, and it's more centralized, and it's a topic that deserves more discussion as time goes on here. But suffice it to say, anybody that's using Lightning is not really using Bitcoin.
Weird.
And when Joel Valenzuela, who's the host of one of the shows we have on LRN.FM, Digital Currency Now, I think is what it's called, when he attempted a Lightning transaction recently, and he's a Lightning node guy. He's got one, so he can learn the ins and outs of it. He's not a fan of it, but he's got one.
He's learning it.
And it didn't work when he tried to send a Lightning transaction to somebody who wanted some Bitcoin from Lightning. So there's all kinds of errors. There's all kinds of problems.
Hard pass.
It is, and that's the really downside to this El Salvador experiment is Bitcoin isn't the right way to go with this. I mean, it's cool that they're making it legal tender, and maybe we can talk more about it on another show because it definitely deserves more discussion. We'll get to it as we get closer to the deadline in September. See you tomorrow. freetalklive.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it